Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of the MinnMax Show. Plays about games, friends, and getting better. My name is Ben Hansen, joined by Kelsey Lewin.
Hello.
Joined by Sarah Podzorski.
Hello.
Joined by Janet Garcia.
Hello.
And joined by you, the person watching or viewing this episode of a video game podcast. Don't be alarmed. We're talking games today, folks. Hang on, I'm just studying Janet's expression during a new attempt at an intro. Okay, I give it a solid, flat response. I love it. We, on this episode, are going to be talking about Super Mario Bros. Wonder. Some of us on this panel have played it. I won't reveal who until a couple minutes from now. We're going to be talking about rumors of the next Nintendo console, the Switch 2, whatever the hell you want to call it. Let's unpack all those rumors because they're heating up more and more. We're going to be having a little follow-up discussion about Sea of Stars. Sarah, have you played Sea of Stars?
I have.
Great. Then we're going to be having a little follow-up discussion about Sea of Stars, everybody, the RPG we talked about last week that's 16-bit inspired. Then Janet and Kelsey were at PAX. We'll be sharing some of the highlights from PAX there. And then we're going to get dorky in the best kind of way and talk about the Making Of Karateka, the new documentary game from the same team that made Atari 50, which, Kelsey, I'd argue...
It is Karateka, which I learned through this video game, and I hate it.
Yeah.
I hate it. I don't ever want to call it Karateka, but it is Karateka.
Just because that's how Jordan Mechner
he has
it?
this one of the videos in there specifically.
I watched it.
It's oh no, that is how you pronounce it.
Yeah, but I think it's a GIF situation. Like, there are plenty of people who are still pretty influential that call it Karateka. And it just sounds better to say Karateka, but you know what? It's before my time, so you pronounce it how you want. We're going to unpack all that stuff. Then back off the show, we have some great questions from the community, which are submitted over there on Patreon. First things first, probably a lot of you out there are like, screaming, shouting, shrieking, saying, where is more Starfield discussion? I'm playing the game. I want to hear other people talk about the game. Please, never stop talking about Starfield. We won't, but that'll be happening next week. Haley McLean's excited to jump in. Leo Vader's been really enjoying it, so we're going to be talking about Starfield a little bit more next week once more people have had a chance to dive in now that it's actually officially out, because the timing's all weird. And special shout out as well to everybody who last week jumped in and supported us on Patreon at any tier. We sent out all of those Xbox codes for hundreds and hundreds of Xbox games. And so if you're wondering, if you supported us last week and you're like, where did that code go? It's in your Patreon message inbox. So go check that and there'll be a nice shiny code waiting for you. Super Mario Bros. Wonder, the Direct happened last week, right when we were launching this episode. And so I thought, did we kind of miss our window? But then interviews kept rolling out for Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and then some folks got to play it at PAX. And so I was like, okay, we are still in the big run up to the new 2D Mario game. Let's see. Did you all watch the Direct, Kelsey and Janet, or did you go in and just jump in and playing it was your first kind of long exposure to this thing?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to watch the Direct at all. So, I mean, obviously I saw the trailer for it the first time they revealed it, but that was it.
I think I was traveling the day they did the Direct. So I was like, well, if I'm not going to do a live reacts, a lot of times I just skip those things. Because I'm like, that's all right. Like, I'm going to play it. So, and then I got there and it was there and I was like, oh, spoilers for the game. The game is here. Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of little things. That was kind of the exciting thing about the Direct. It's just, it seems like, maybe just directly compared to a lot of the, the new series of Mario, they are just packing in a ton of small ideas into this. It just feels like little ideas spread across the entire experience. And maybe like the biggest thing is this badges system where you can equip different things. And like, they're big on showing off like new power-ups for Mario Brothers Wonder as well. Like, okay, you got the elephant thing, which captured the internet's imagination. Of course, elephants was the secret to everybody. That's what everybody loves on the internet. Elephants was the answer. And then it's like, hey, you got a new ability, a new power-up where you can blow bubbles out. It's like, that seems okay. You got the screw power-up. That seems okay. But then like this badge system, it's like, okay, also I guess you can equip this if you want. And suddenly it's like, having a vine grappling hook in a Mario game. It's like, that looks way cooler than any of these power-ups. No offense to the elephants and everybody who worships the elephants. But, I mean, I could blab away and talk about the Direct, but both of you played it? Janet and Kelsey, did you play it together? Co-op?
Yes.
We did, yeah.
Okay. Was that our first time playing a video game together?
It might be.
I think that was.
Wait, no, we've played Animal Crossing together, right?
I guess so. I mean, I've probably gone to your island.
Yeah, I guess that is different, though. That's a totally different experience.
Yeah, just stand and watch somebody run around an island. Okay, so biggest impression, biggest takeaway when you get your hands on Mario Wonder, what stands out here?
It's weird. Mm-hmm. It is, and like, I am still trying to figure out, I think it's going to take till I'm playing the full game to fully form an opinion. I'm still trying to figure out how I feel about it. I think it's going to be an awesome game. I think it's going to feel real weird for a Mario game. Like a real, like, it's different. It definitely feels different to play in like I'm not just doing the normal 2D platformy thing that's solid and maybe there's cool powers and whatever.
Because of the badges system, or because of the power-ups, or because of the Wonder Flower?
I think it's a little bit of both. The power-ups, at least, I mean, we didn't do the bubble one. Our demo only included the drill one and the elephant one. The drill one felt different. I would say elephant feels like it's, I mean, obviously it's weird, but it's like still in line with like a Mario power-up.
Right.
The drill one is not a kind of Mario power-up I have ever... It feels like it's off somehow. And again, I don't mean this in a bad way. I just think it's like, it feels like, you know, a really, really, really good studio that grew up playing Mario games and is making something a little different that like feels as solid as a Mario game, but like doing some different stuff with it.
That's a really interesting idea, because I don't know if you checked out the whole blast of interviews that shot out there that Nintendo lined up for this thing. But they have Tezuka involved in all the interviews, who's been with Mario series since the beginning, absolute legend. I mean, director of 3, World, Link to the Past, ton of Nintendo games, right? But then also Shiro Mori, who I wasn't familiar with, but he's the director for this game. And it's his first Mario game that he's directed, as far as I can tell. Like, he was a programmer. He was a programmer on the mini games in Pokemon Stadium. Like, that's where he got his early days.
Yeah, finally.
Those are excellent.
That's right. That's right. Lick-a-tongue special. Here we go. And then he was a programmer on a bunch of Nintendo and Mario games. And he was like a programming director for Mario Brothers U. And then, I guess, was technically the director on Mario Brothers U Deluxe. So like the Switch port, which is kind of a messy thing. But it is interesting, like even having Nintendo do press for a new 2D Mario game and no Miyamoto interviews. So to your point about it feeling a little bit different, Kelsey, it is like it feels like changing of the guards within Nintendo. Because even they were in IGN's interview, they were talking about how Miyamoto didn't have that much input on the game. Like, he would come in and check stuff out every once in a while, but he had a moment of walking in and saw the early idea for Elephant Mario, and he's like, that does not look like a Mario character to me. I don't know what this is. So I guess it's a nice sign of Nintendo evolving, if it just means we're going to just pack these games with weird ideas, you know?
I mean, the old guard is going to die at some point.
Hey, whoa,
Kelsey, you can't just say Miyamoto's going to die.
Are you out of your mind?
You name him.
You can't just say that.
Tezuka's in that camp
Stop!
too. Like,
Stop! Why don't I just
Somebody
say
check
we're
the
all
news.
going to die?
Is he still alive? Somebody check the news.
Kelsey, you just want to point at people watching, listening, and scream at them they're going to die as well, for the love of Christ.
No, yes, actually, yeah.
No!
We're all going to die.
And all your video games are going to get game rot also. Technically.
My point is, like, it's better to start this transition to, like, I don't know, expecting new stuff from a Mario game and, like, just expecting these new ideas and seeing, I don't know, like, I think this is a very smart way to do it, to have, like, a Tezuka someone else combo, you know? Because you're, like, you're still getting some old guard Mario, and now we're injecting some of the new people into, I mean, not that he's new, he's been with the company since the 90s, but, like, you know, we're injecting some new ideas into this, and it's not going to be this, like, wild transition of, like, this is unrecognizable as a Mario game. I have no idea what's going on. It's just a little weird and a little off.
I mean, it's a similar philosophy.
I think it's cool.
Yeah. It's a similar philosophy with the Charles Martinet thing, I guess, a little bit, right? Like, he's getting a little long in the tooth. Like, we're going to make this transition at some point. And I guess this is the game where Martinet is not going to be voicing Mario. And there's a VGC interview with Charles Martinet where he talked a little bit about that. And he said, quote, "I am now a Mario ambassador. I don't know what that is yet." So I wonder.
Is that what Nintendo told
When I
you
read that,
was?
I was like, they just felt like they couldn't get rid of him or everyone would be real mad, including him. So they just, like, made up a role and they were like, you Mario ambassador. That's right.
Yeah, but no one can be mad.
You sit on the council of Mario in that there is only you and you don't have any opinions on anything, but you're on the council.
Right. You have a quorum, no doubt about it. Janet, I know you're a big Yoshi's Island fan. Are you a big 2D Mario person? Like, what was it like for you to jump onto Wonder?
Yeah, Wonder, my impressions are it's fast.
Fast.
I said it's the most Sonic-y Mario's ever been. Not in a bad way. I know some people have strong Sonic opinions.
There we go,
The levels
Sarah.
are super short, at least for what we played.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
And it kind of a couple things stood out. One, Kelsey immediately pointed out the like when we were playing, the fact that the jumps are like you kind of just have your standard jump. There's not like a lot of chaining of jumps, which is very classically Mario. Like you can't really do that. Like they have a badge that lets you do the when you jump and you hit R and you do like a little spin.
Yeah.
They have a badge that lets you do a version of that, but it's not
weird.
like baked into the core. So the core is kind of a stripped down version, which might speak to like the ways that Kelsey described it feeling weird because it doesn't have those like classic cores I think we're used to. And it reminded me a little bit of like Yoshi's Island in the sense that like with the drill ability, like just the idea of drilling down to the ground and zooping around the ceiling, like the degree to which they're leaning into Mario as transformative instead of just his abilities being more additive. So if you think of something like, the like Tanuki suit or the, wing cap from back in the day or whatever, like I think a lot of times Mario's abilities have enhanced an existing concept. Like he can jump a lot, now he can fly, or he can glide, like the jump is longer. Like it's kind of really playing with the base. While things like the elephant, things like the drill, I'm not really familiar with how the bubbles function, but they sort of are more like gimmicky, for lack of a less negatively charged term.
Sure.
Again, I don't think that's bad. I really enjoyed my time with it. I think the other thing that leans into the speed, at least in the 2 levels we played, is they had a lot of those kind of moments where you had an enemy grab like the big coin and run really fast. So stuff that kind of forces your hand to run through the level. Like there was a point where we were playing and Kelsey's like, Jan's going real fast. And I'm like, I promise I'm not trying to like just speed run this demo, but like I wanted to also like get the things. And you kind of, in those moments you do have to kind of pick what you're doing. Are you going to explore like the nooks and crannies, or are you going to like go after like the big coin that like you're sort of kind of conditioned to chase in Mario games?
It sounded like the rep wasn't completely sure. You asked a really good question that was something like, are you going to maybe need some certain badges to find certain,
secrets and
things
stuff
in the level, whether that's just like, you collect all these things or there's a secret exit or something like that. They sort of said no, but they said it in a way where I was not at all convinced that they actually knew the answer to that.
One aspect of that, though, too, to kind of add to like you bringing that up, because I felt like a little bit more confident in their no, but one thing that stood out to me is when we were playing, so we played one standard level and one optional harder level, or presumably optional at least. I guess they didn't.
I think we did 2 like regular levels, but one of them was like super tutorial. The next one was like kind of a real level. And then we had a choice between easy level or difficult level, which I did not find difficult. Like we got hit a few times, but it was not like they gave you a lot of power ups and stuff in that one.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. I think the hardest part of it was there was a point where you again kind of like where you needed the power up. So if you lost it, like at a point, like Kelsey had like lost her power up, I like had the drill left, and I was kind of just like sensing through the world because I'm like, well, I've never, we just started the game, right? So that part was a little bit tougher, but it definitely wasn't like, tough in a like hardcore platform, which it makes sense. Like Mario's not really known for that. I know we have the moments of like if you 100% in Odyssey, you like saw God and stuff. Like I get.
There's the high end stuff for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, they can get up there for sure, but in general, that's not really what the franchise is known for. What they kind of lean into. But the thing that stood out to me with the kind of completionist angle of it is there was a point where we were in the level and they had like the Yoshi egg like in a block, and they mentioned only Yoshi can get that. I don't know if that like would, if you need the Yoshi to get that to like see like a secret, like that part I wasn't sure about. And there's like a big cast of characters, but some of the characters are technically like easy mode characters. Like what was the thing, Kelsey? They can't take damage or something?
Yeah, so it's like I think Nabbit is the name of the thing.
And Yoshi too is also easy mode.
But they had like 4 different colors of Yoshi, which I was really excited about. Then they were like, "Oh, don't that's the baby mode. Don't pick that." I was
Stay away from the cute thing. Don't be a fool.
I was like, "Oh, I wanted to be yellow Yoshi. That sounded cool." But
on the secret front.
they can't get the power-ups, but they also can't die, I think is the way they explained it.
I didn't realize
Also, it's like younger sibling. Like this is for my younger sibling.
They just kind of follow along, and
I do I do kind of hate when they like lock that to a character though, because to your point,
Yeah.
to your point, Yoshi. To your point, Kelsey. I mix those up all the time for some reason. To your point, Kelsey.
My
like,
nickname.
I know. I like to just pick whoever I want, and then I think it'd be much more. I'd be much more appreciative if they just let you toggle on and off. But I think it's also part of again, not to kind of get too in the weeds of away from what the gameplay was and our experience was, but I think that also speaks to Nintendo just is obsessed with doing things differently to be different. You can just make an easy mode. You can just make a no damage toggle. Like, I guess it's kind of cool that they like to bake it into the lore of the game, but sometimes I think that's at the detriment of giving players more freedom to have differentiated experiences, or also clarity, I think, in what you're selecting as well.
Yeah.
Well, I can also just see a situation where you've got like a, baby cousin who really wants to be Mario, but it's like, sorry, bud, you can't be because that's hard mode.
You're not good enough.
Right. Yeah, on the Secret Front, they said in the Nintendo Direct that, like, there's the Wonder Flower, which makes every level get trippy in a different kind of way. And there's some really wild stuff. Like, one of them that they showed is, like, if you get the Wonder Flower, then you start walking on the walls behind you. It almost looks like a Zelda perspective then, where it's like a weird isometric view as you're like walking. It's just really cool, weird stuff that's a possibility. But apparently you can also choose not to get the Wonder Flower in a level, and then you might find some secrets that aren't there if you decide to trip out and go for the Wonder Flower route and stuff. So they're definitely, in all the interviews, they're teasing that, like, this is unbelievably packed with secrets. So if that's your flavor of Mario love, might be for you. I wasn't on the podcast for the reactions to the reveal of this game and stuff. I was surprised by how in love everybody is with the art style, and saying, like, it feels like 80% new Mario series to me. Maybe I need to like, okay, thank you, Jen. I feel like I need to see this maybe on my TV. Maybe that's the difference. I'm like, I appreciate the changes they do have, but it's not quite the revolution that some people are really making it out to be.
I think it does look good. Like, I guess, well, is it fair? I don't want to put words in your mouth, Hanson. Is it fair that you maybe, how do you feel about that new Super Mario Bros. Art style?
I think it's bland. Whatever.
Right?
Like, I like those games, but yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something about it's a little garish to me.
Garish.
It looks a little ugly. Like the new one, the new Super Mario Bros. one. But I agree with you. When I saw this initially, I said, oh, this is a better version of that.
Right.
And then a lot of people in the replies were insistent of, this is totally different. Like, yeah, no, this is like not even close. And I'm like, it's kind of similar. I do think I like how it looks though.
Okay.
Like, I think they like for me, they smoothed out the aspect of New Super Mario Bros. U that didn't look good to me into something that does look good. But I definitely agree that it doesn't feel like, a revolutionary look for Mario. It's just, I feel like it's a little bit more iterative, but I think it's positively iterative.
Yeah, I remember we interviewed Miyamoto when Mario U came out. And he said at that time, I forget if it was him or Tezuka, but they said that, like, they're like, yeah, this is just the way Mario looks in HD. Like, we don't know what else we could possibly do with the style. And I remember hearing that at the time, being like, God, that's such a bummer. And then another interview with Miyamoto, I got obnoxious and was asking him, like, oh, would you ever make a 2D Mario game with the art of, like, Kotabe, like kind of the instruction manual, old Nintendo art? And he was like, I don't think so. It's like, maybe now I'm just too in love with that idea of, like, God, if you just went all and made it actually look like the old, box art for Mario 3 in like a Rayman Legends kind of way, instead of, I know they're getting a little more expressive with the animations in this one, the character models, but it's still that 80-20 split that I can't get over.
The animations are really, like, thoroughly thought out. No offense to the existing animations. Like, obviously thought goes into every aspect of making a product, but the way, like, and again, it's like a small thing. Like, it's not going to change, like, your opinion on the game if you like it or don't like it. But like, when you're Elephant Mario, like, the way you kind of struggle to get out of the pipes, and even just like the way you climb out, I did notice that did stand out to me a little bit.
That's fun.
I will also say a weird thing that I noticed, and people might not agree with this, but I feel like the sound design and some of the visual design is a little mobile gamey. And that's not like an insane criticism, I don't think. Like, I'm not like, and therefore it's garbage. It's just like, there's kind of a lot of like little noises going on that feel to me a little more, it's a little more like mobile game or casino-y even, where it's like, I can tell they're trying to do a little like, keep my attention, get a little, here's a little flare here, here's a little flare there.
Yeah. It is like an overwhelming, I will say it is an overwhelming experience to play the game, at least the way we played it, which granted, you could walk like much more slowly, like through the level. And also we had like 3 people total.
Are you saying that you sprinted throughout the levels, Janet, and just left Kelsey in the dirt? that what
Kelsey,
I'm gleaning from this?
If that's your experience, I don't want to silence you. You can put me on blast.
No, it was just the one time.
Yes.
And I think, I didn't realize you were just chasing after an enemy that
I was like, I promise this isn't like the cloud of my speed running of Mario to not even complete it. You know what I mean? But like, I think just, especially with 3 people total and which goes up to 4, like just there's a lot going on the screen. It is a little bit of an overstimulating experience, but granted,
I think that's all I'm getting at. Is
Sure.
like there's just more happening on screen, both visually and with the sound design.
Is this
than
like
I'm used to
Nintendo
in a Mario
trying
game.
to get the iPad babies? Is this like the new
that is,
generation of like
what-
iPad baby games? Because it does
That's
seem
where
like
my
from
brain
what I've
went.
heard. Yeah, in interviews, they're like really trying. They're really aiming for like that younger new Mario audience.
Yeah.
You know, like the ones who have always had screens in their hands, always watching something. Like you got to have your Subway Surfer in the corner. You got to have your Minecraft jumping puzzle. You got to have your Mario Wonder. Like that, even by the art style, I notice all kids' animations are kind of leaning more toward this like 3D soft look. Like they're all starting to kind of like look the same to me, as like that's just what kids stuff tends to look like. So maybe this is their attempt at like a new market.
Well, I do wonder
Which is
if
not us.
Well, but then again, I think there's still going to be plenty of hardcore Mario fans that are going to be gaga over this thing. Like I, controversial take. I've never loved a 2D Mario game except for Yoshi's Island, which I will count.
Not even like
the
Mario
handheld,
Land
the little
or Mario
like the Mario
World?
World.
I like those games, but in terms of like really loving a game.
Did you play 6 Golden Coins?
Yeah, I didn't beat it.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's my favorite.
I love it too.
Yeah, okay.
6 Golden Coin stan. Yes.
So I'm not coming from like the hardcore Mario super fandom for the 2D stuff in particular. So I'm a little more skeptical and wonder that a lot of people, but in terms of like the, grabbing a younger generation and stuff, I wonder if like the talking flowers is a big part of that. Like, and obviously this game is in development.
Kids read?
You
They don't
wonder-
read anymore.
Yeah.
Right, right. Yes,
wonder-
Kelsey.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Good job,
Thank you
Kelsey.
so much. Thank you so much for picking up on something that all of us gloss past. No, but so I apparently have the option to mute the talking flowers that are screaming at you throughout this entire game, which is a really nice detail. Like Nintendo with that type of option feels very unique. But I do wonder if it's like the impact of the movie, even if these are in development at the same time, of like if kids are going to play this and be like, why aren't people talking? And their solution for that is, well, let's put a bunch of flowers in the background. They're like, we love you, Mario, or whatever the hell they're saying back there. I don't know.
At least
Wonder.
they brought back Princess Daisy.
Yeah.
As a Princess Daisy fan, I'm really glad they like took her out of the storage room. They dusted her off and they said you can be in something that isn't Mario Party, Mario Sports, or Mario Kart.
Right.
Oh, also,
Good to see her back.
What
I
a
didn't like
queen.
Toadette. I'm a certified
love
Toadette
Toadette.
hater.
Oh, interesting.
I love her. The little like bulbs that are like, I don't really know if that's her hair or pieces of her skull that are connected. I'm not really sure.
She raises too many questions.
She raises a lot of questions, but she also, I'm sure she has a lot of answers if we just open our hearts and our minds.
Yeah.
I love Toadette.
Yeah.
That's like my main in Mario Kart, Toadette on a little motorcycle. But I didn't really notice this while I was playing because I was, again, it's hard to take it all in when it's such a, it's a 15-minute demo we had. But there's no collisions between the characters, I don't think. Right?
Oh.
Like,
Because you used to be able to jump off each other.
It's
just-
chaos.
Yeah,
You could like double jump.
That's what
I
someone
think you're
told me who
right.
also demoed it. They're like, there's no collisions. And I'm like,
Whoa.
yeah.
oh, I didn't pick up. But I also don't feel like I was bumping into you guys either. But again, there's so much going on like so quickly, such a short time. I don't know.
That's huge. Yeah, it looks like other people are talking about it. No collision. That's really
Okay.
interesting.
Thank you for getting to the Googles real quick. 'Cause
Yeah.
I wasn't total. You know what I mean? It's like one of those things where it's like, how did I not even notice that? But
No,
and then the
totally.
last thing I want to shout out, just because it's like multiplayer game. The camera favors player one. Like it is assigned to player one.
Yeah.
I do not believe that you can like map like I want it to be player threes or anything like that.
No, you can. No,
you
it's
can?
whoever
Okay.
it's whoever started the level, because there was
Right,
one
okay,
level
yes.
where I think the camera was on me and one where it
Okay.
was on you.
Okay.
Interesting.
Cool.
So you get the little crown over your head if you are like the person who started the experience.
Right. Sweet. There's one other little detail in an IGN interview that I enjoyed where they're talking about like, oh, the younger developers, are they just in awe of working with Tezuka and what that's like, yada, yada, yada. And Tezuka said in this IGN interview, there are a lot of people on the development team who want to talk to me. Within our development area, we have some small tables with snacks on them. And those are really just traps to entice me to come into that area. So when I'm lured in to take a snack, that's when they pounce and start talking to me. I love that idea. It's like this legendary developer, like, we gotta get him in here. We want to ask him questions about Mario 3. Quick, just put some snacks on the table. We got him.
That is honestly like that is the pinnacle of office culture. Because office culture is like, hey, would you like to work while also being constantly interrupted?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
There it is. You don't miss office culture, Janet? Really?
I mean, I like being in person for content. I just don't want to be like, while I'm doing my emails and having to play an embargoed game, I'm also like, I must be in a room with people who will walk up and ask me about the game that I'm working on covering.
Right. Oh, I do. I am
Outside
nostalgic.
of Isaiah, I live with Isaiah, so obviously I'm not living my whole life uninterrupted, but it can be, they're fun conversations, but then you look at the clock and you're like, oh my God, it's lunchtime, and I didn't gotten anything really done.
Yeah. You just got to say good and nod and move on. And that's his key. We should talk a little bit about these rumors about the next Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch follow-up is probably a good way to put it. I mean, what is it? 2018, all these Switch Pro rumors, it does feel like a weird redux of now everybody's coming out of the woodwork again. Because back in the day, Bloomberg was like, they're developing an upgrade to the Switch. It's going to be the 4K Switch. It's going to be big. It's not the successor. It's just like the PS4 Pro equivalent. And then it seemed like due to chip shortages, Nintendo axed those plans if those rumors were indeed true, and Bloomberg seemed to stand by them. But now rumors are heating up again saying, looks like 2024, this next Nintendo handheld / console is actually going to be happening. And maybe even at Gamescom, people got to see it. They're starting to show it to developers. It's at that point where kind of the rumors, again, this is a lot of internet hearsay swirling, but even people like Jeff Grubb, who's a pretty good track record with this type of thing, is like, I think there's something to this. I think 2024 is going to be the year for the new Switch. Do you want to hear some hot rumors? And you guys can yay or nay them based on what your gut tells you. Sure. So this thing, leading leak rumor is that the next Switch is going to be backwards compatible, which, thank God.
Yeah, I'd hope so.
Cracks for Nintendo stuff.
Right. I would certainly hope so.
For the most part.
New cartridge format. So sticking with cartridges. But sure.
Of course they are.
Funny. Like, well, we're supposed to be saying if we agree, right?
Yeah.
I guess probably.
Are they gonna? Is it just gonna be like a micro SD card at some point?
Like, how small are these cards?
Oh my
They really
God.
cannot get any smaller. Like the DS is as small as I'm willing to go for any sort of like game cartridge.
Yeah, and maybe all cartridges, Sarah, do taste funny, but just the Switch cartridges are so small, it like compacts the flavor down. So that's why it tastes just like a bitter warhead in your mouth.
Have you tasted it?
We've all tasted.
Have you looked at
Nintendo
one?
I
Switch.
haven't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
You haven't?
No.
Okay, right behind you. Grab one of the Switch boxes.
I honestly would do it now, but
Lick the cartridge.
I'm using this like heavy duty mouthwash that makes my mouth taste kind of weird after I use it. So I feel like my
Sense
like
of taste.
I won't give you a good review because I've been compromised.
Well, there's only one way to find out. Get licking. Also, they say there is a new camera feature on the next Nintendo Switch.
I don't know if I need that.
Nay?
I don't. It does.
Nay.
In terms of what if I
like
think
an
that that's
AR
true?
thing,
Because
right?
the DS had that and it sucked, right? Where you could put your face on the little like things and you could
The
shoot
3DS,
yourself.
yeah, it had that.
Space
and-
Raiders was
Yeah.
peak gaming. I don't know what you're talking about.
That's
thought
like
it
the
was
peak
cool.
that Nintendo can do with the camera. I'm cool.
I like that stuff back in the day, but it is weird. Like I did like the camera on the Wii U. I thought it was really fun in Nintendo Land when you're playing Mario Chase and the person who has the gamepad, like their camera is put up on the main screen. You remember, so you can like look at all their expressions and stuff. Like there were fun little gimmicks with that, and it is odd that they didn't include that at all in the Switch. So maybe that would make sense. I could see that if they have to. Like I guess big picture wise, I'm so happy with the Switch. If it's just a more powerful Switch with like one tiny gimmick that we can ignore pretty easily, that is mission accomplished by a mile for me. But I just don't know if Nintendo is capable of one
Giving you
small
what you
gimmick.
want?
Well, yeah. I mean, to be honest, yeah, right?
No, but genuine. And again, I'm like, I love Nintendo to pieces. Nintendo is a very frustrating and confusing company in terms of how they do a lot of the things that they do. So it's like, it's hard for me to even imagine this existing, just because I'm like, I just can't imagine them not touching it way more. Even though, like, why would they? But I'm sure
Yeah.
internally though
I don't
there
know,
are
remember the
discussions of
DSi?
needs they have. Yeah, but that's like more. That's more iterative though.
Right.
Too. Like if they did that with like the Switch Lite and things like that, but.
I mean, it is weird to
Switch
think.
2 that's just a better Switch? Like, I hope so, but I don't know.
I mean, it's been since like the NES to Super Nintendo, I feel like, where it's just kind of that clean of like, it's a more powerful version basically of what
Yeah.
you had before. So unless I'm forgetting about a generational gap, but I feel like they always have to have a super unique angle, something to really lean into.
What
but
if they bring back the Kisekai plates? The
What's that?
DS had those little plates you could remove and like swap
I would
out.
love
I love that so much.
I think
Yeah.
the girlies would love that for the Nintendo
Yes.
Switch.
Give me
100%.
much more ways to accessorize. I already think they have not leaned nearly heavily enough into the Joy-Cons. being
really
like different. Like they've got some good colors and everything, but I mean, how long's the Switch been out? And I feel like we have just a like very solid handful of special editions and colors and stuff where they could have gone like, give me like translucent every color, give me some with like just, you know, little flowers on it, or like camo
just like a generic,
or like just all kinds of, you know, like they could be going so much
generic cute
every
prints.
franchise should have a set of Joy-Cons. There should be Kirby Joy-Cons, there should be like Star Fox Joy-Cons, just, you know, all of them.
Are you saying this as a businesswoman or as a fan?
Both, but mostly as a businesswoman. Like, genuinely, like I think that. Okay, so I thought when they announced this, I thought it was genius because I was like, they don't need to do special editions anymore. They can just do special edition Joy-Cons, and then we don't all have to feel like idiots because we're just like buying another special edition console.
Totally.
After we already bought the launch console because, now they made an Animal Crossing one and I gotta buy that or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
and I did feel like an idiot.
I bought like
buying
5
that.
3DSs.
I did feel like an idiot. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like
I would like to
5
stop feeling so
3DSs.
dumb, Nintendo, if possible.
And that's stupid. They don't, like, they're going to get way more people if they're selling you an $80 product like 10 times than like, you know, getting you for one more Switch. So yeah, I don't think they leaned nearly hard enough into that. I was convinced that was going to be like a huge part of their strategy, and it's just been kind of like fine.
Yeah.
I think too, when you talk about the modularity of the device, like even if you did want, because you know, obviously the Animal Crossing Switch comes with the Animal Crossing dock, but I feel like creating a modularity within
docks.
Yes, within the dock would be more dock, either whether it's more docks that you sell, or what my dream would be, which is like, give me a dock that has the modularity of the PS5 when it comes to faceplates, because again, much lower acquisition situation. Now, I will say one problem that PlayStation didn't think about, and maybe they're just like, that's your problem, and I'm like, that's fair, is I took the faceplates off to put the pink ones on, and like, where do the other ones go? And they're so big and they're slanted. Like, there's not like, and there's not like, they don't sell like a case for them or something. Like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just shoving them in the closet, hoping I don't end up buying more because like, I don't want to throw them away, but also like, they store so awkward, where at least the dock is a much more traditional shape because it is like a little rectangle. Like, you could slap on things like with the DS, that was the whole thing too, where they had that model that could do the faceplates. And then we couldn't, so like, and sometimes you can get a case that does it, but yeah. I think too, the last thing I'll say on the customization is like, that's very much a huge part of the culture in terms of like, you go on TikTok and you see what's quote unquote the Nintendo Switch girls. If you know, you know.
Oh my God.
And
you know.
What, Ben, do you know what a Nintendo Switch girl is?
No clue. I'm kind of delighted that I don't know.
So like, Sarah, how would you describe a Nintendo Switch girl? Because you know what I'm talking about.
Nintendo Switch girls are specifically very aesthetic internet girls. Their aesthetic is very like cute, cozy, lots of pinks, lots of like nature greens, lots of baby blues.
Sarah, you can just turn around in your chair and just wave your arm like this.
This isn't good enough. This isn't good enough.
This isn't good enough. Oh, okay.
But like, essentially all they do is they make these like social media videos where they're like set up their entire desk and they'll make themselves a little snack and then they'll take out their Nintendo Switch, which is perfectly themed down to the Joy-Cons, the button covers,
like it's all
the dock,
it's all aesthetically
and it all matches.
coherent.
It all matches.
There's snack matches.
And sometimes people have like you talked about the pastels and the greens, but there's also like the girls that get into the yellows, you know, where it's like kind of like a bee, like a hive kind of cozy honey vibe.
Okay.
And you mentioned like, oh, that's us. I wish that was me. Like, I don't have enough of a cohesive look. Like, I know I have some pinks. Like, I have girly stuff. Like, I'm not like, oh, no, I have, like, a broed out rig. Like, I have girly stuff. Sure, it's cute. But it's not cohesive. Like, I didn't commit to something. Like, it's like the Switch is Animal Crossing. The mat's blue. Like, the keyboard's pink. It's they have, like, everything's the same. And they also have the little thumbsticks, too, which I think Nintendo can get into. Because a lot of people are doing that on theirs. But anyway, I want better hardware.
I mean, moral of this story is that if you sold a bunch of different aesthetic packages for people at the lower price point, at the price of just the Joy-Cons or just the dock or something like that, you'd be selling so many more of these because sometimes I feel like having a pink Switch and maybe sometimes I feel like having a yellow Switch or whatever. Like,
mood
I would
ring
do that. We'd all
options.
do that.
Yeah. Probably 350, 400 for the new thing.
What was the old one again? Is it
Switch launched at 300. The OLED is 350, and the rumors are looks good.
Ooh,
Sarah.
that's
She's
very
holding
cute.
Up. She's holding up her Joy-Con. Excellent.
Yeah.
The rumors are that this the next Switch successor will not have an OLED screen either. So probably.
Okay. So you said you said $399. I'm sorry for the price rumored.
No, there is no rumored price. These are just guesses.
Okay.
I'm guessing $350 or $400 is what.
Yeah, because what's the? And I know I know these questions seem silly because like I'm literally in games, but I just forget because what's the PS5 and the Series X?
Well, in the US,
you know what I mean?
different.
I'm wondering like where in the market they usually do sit on the lower end.
Yeah.
PS5 $600 for the not digital version, right? And then
I think it's $500, $400.
I think 300 does sound right, but I wonder if would they want to come in under the S?
I think it's going to be $350. I mean, it's there's been a bit of inflation.
I can't see it.
Yeah.
I can't see it being cheaper than the OLED.
Oh yeah, you're right. If the OLED,
Yep, I think it makes sense.
No,
Maybe they would dock the price for the old OLED. Maybe, who knows?
Yeah.
So there was also the rumor that apparently Final Fantasy VII Remake is running on this thing and could be a launch game. Again, rumor. That seems like an easy one just to lob out there.
Wild rumor.
Like really running, like not in the cloud. Also, too, what I want out of the next Switch is I want us to throw that cloud stuff out of the window. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Honey, if you can't run it, we got other. That's the problem. Or like that, you know what I mean? Especially too because these are not like, Starfield's launching day and day on the Switch. I know that doesn't make any sense, right? Because it's an Xbox game, but walk with me for a second.
Sure.
It's not like even that. It's like you can't play Control. Like a game that barely ran when it came out on PC. You know, it's like, it's not even like this is a wild ask for you to just keep up with the market. And I just feel like the cloud solution hasn't been one that I've seen satisfy audiences. I mean, feel free to like hit up in the chat or in the like if you're really I'm so playing curious. The cloud and this is a great experience, because I haven't heard anyone enjoy their time with that experience for those games that can't run.
But if the next Switch is still PS4 level of tech, if they have Final Fantasy VII Remake running on there, even if it's like a good looking version of the PS4 version of Final Fantasy VII Remake, like I still think they're gonna run into that situation where there's just the current gen games they can't run, and I bet they keep that cloud solution just so they can technically be in the conversation, even if it is not the best way for a lot of people to jump in and play. Mario Kart 9 launch would be killer, but that makes so much sense and they make so much money that, again, with Nintendo, no. There's going to be some twist. There's going to be something coming.
I feel like they're not done milking us with Mario Kart 8.
Yeah.
I don't think they're done because they're still releasing all those new tracks, and I think they've just like changed the 8 to infinity and we're doomed.
If they just re-release Mario Kart 8
just
Deluxe
turn
now,
outside. That's so smart, actually. I would follow them into the sun for that. I don't mind.
But if it's just like now you pay $60 for the 4K version of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, they would make a gazillion dollars again. It'd be.
They don't
horrifying.
even have to say 4K version. It could be the same Switch version, and they would still make a gazillion.
Even if it's backwards compatible, it's still just with the new packaging. People would be like, "Well, this is the thing to buy." So. That's horrifying. I also, again, this is one of those things that like it makes so much sense, but it's probably not going to happen for years and years if it even happens. But like Breath of the Wild remaster, if that thing's running at 60 frames even at launch, like that would be incredible. And the only thing that makes me pause on it is the fact that they announced recently, or is translated from a Famitsu interview, that that Tears of the Kingdom won't have DLC. So it's like maybe that team then immediately jumped over to Breath of the Wild for the remaster or something. They could get out in time for the launch for the next thing, but that's.
They haven't even given us Wind Waker on Switch, so let's slow our rolls here.
It's sitting in the archive somewhere.
Also, with the backwards compatibility, would it be then you could put your games into that new Switch even though the cart is different?
Yeah, I don't know. Great questions. We'll find out next year, everybody. Switch 2. Do
you think it's next year, for real?
That's what the rumors are pointing towards,
Do you think it's next year?
I think so.
Yeah?
I do. I do believe that. I believe that in my heart of hearts.
I've decided never to believe in anything related to the Switch 2 again, so I refuse to.
I think that's.
I would say I'm going to say no every year, even when the year comes out.
Yeah,
because
I think that's a smart
was so
take.
exhausted.
Yep,
by
absolutely.
like 2 seconds
until it's physically in my hands.
Yeah. Because like I went down that road and I'm like, I'm never following down this clown college road again. Yep. Like I can't do it. No shade to Clown College. Like if you want to clown passion, like go ahead.
With all respect to clowns that they've earned.
Yeah, with all respect to clowns, like I'm tired and I'm done.
Yep. Hey, you know what I'm not done with are these hot throwback RPGs. Sea of Stars, the game that Kyle reviewed last week on the podcast. Janet, have you started this thing by chance?
No, not yet.
That's
I got
fine.
it queued up, ready to go. I've just haven't had time.
Yep, it's tight all over the place. I am so amazed by their marketing and rollout for this of like, throwback to RPG. But I feel like people have been talking about Sea of Stars for years. And then also, the fact that there's a demo on every platform, the fact that it's on Game Pass and PS Plus Extra, I didn't even think you could do that. I don't know how they pulled it off. I thought you kind of had to like pick a lane for which bundle to be in. Like they're doing as good of a job as you can possibly do for getting a throwback JRPG out there. Despite Kyle raving about it on last week's podcast, I still jumped into it and was super impressed. Like you can feel the budget flowing through this, which is a weird thing to say about a, pixel art throwback RPG, but it's like there is just so much work and detail and animation packed in this thing, and it immediately feels cozy and delightful. I am really enjoying my time with it. But Kelsey, what do you think? Have you sunk much time to Sea of Stars?
Yeah, not a ton yet. I'm probably like 3 hours in, which I was very excited to hear Kyle say last week that it is not a like crazy long game. Right. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying the combat system. I'm enjoying just like it picks up very quick. I've played so many JRPGs at this point in my life, and I do like them, but I get very tired of the intros to games being kind of like, you're in a mystical world, and in this world we call you Solstice Warriors. Totally. And in the last game you played, you're called this. Like it's all, you get some kind of samey stuff. And so just exposition is usually my least favorite part. They get in like pretty quick with getting you interested. I don't want to do any spoilers, even though this is very early, but there is a like a flashback sequence that you're basically just like, oh, okay, all right, I'm invested very quickly. So I'm impressed with the combat. I'm very impressed with how thoughtful you're not exploring very large areas. It is very kind of like, 16-bit RPG Dungeons, kind of thing where like you're not going to be in this just giant open world thing. But they've been very thoughtful with the way they've crafted those. Like anytime there's a resting spot, like a little campfire thing, you will be able to put down rope ladders basically after any somewhat major encounter that will help you get back there quicker to rest if that, kind of kicked your butt. So like I've just been noticing a lot of very like thoughtful touches like that where it's like, okay, I don't have to like backtrack through this entire area if I'm, kind of getting beat up here. Like they've given me some help and some extra stuff. And I've not so far, I think the difficulty is exactly right. It's like
totally.
You are probably going to win every fight as long as you are paying attention and like, keeping your eye on the ball and like really making use of that like timing your combat and your blocks and everything correctly. And you probably won't have to grind, but every encounter is going to be at least a little bit of a challenge. Like you can't just sleepwalk through it.
Yeah, I had a weird feeling starting this game. And even as a Final Fantasy 16 defender, which I feel like I need to come out as a defender in this world, in this day and age. Sarah, I see that smile.
It's so hard to be you, isn't it, Ben?
No, I'm surprised. I mean, we don't need to fully get derailed into a 16 conversation, but
the JRPG boys are skittering to your feet like rats to worship you.
To be fair, we just we posted on our YouTube channel a Big Mac spoilers discussion about Final Fantasy 16. It's also in the bonus podcast feed if you're a Patreon supporter. So if you want the full breakdown, 2 hours of talking about what I like about that game, you can check that out. We'd appreciate it. But to
Only
be fair,
2 hours?
To be fair though, Sarah, I appreciate the tone. Let me deflate my own thing. I like Final Fantasy 16. I am not as in love with it as everybody else I recorded that spoiler cast with. And clearly a lot of the internet is. But what I was saying is Sea of Stars, it feels like it's given me all the pieces that I felt was missing in Final Fantasy 16. It's like I enjoyed going through Final Fantasy 16, but I wrapped it up and then was like, I think at the core of it, what I want from a Final Fantasy or an RPG in general is like, I just want to go on like a fun little adventure. And I feel like there's a lot of things you can say about Final Fantasy 16. It's not exactly like a fun adventure with your friends. It didn't feel that way to me. And even just like, you talk about the environments, Kelsey, just like exploring a pretty simple little dungeon area in an RPG. It's like, oh, this just feels so good. And it's exactly what I was craving, starving from after finishing 16, which is just streamlined within an inch of its life to try and diminish all RPG systems and stuff like that. But there's just something about Sea of Stars.
Can I interest you in Octopath Traveler 2?
Yes, you may, Kelsey. I have started that twice this year on Switch and Steam Deck, and I'm like, I can't let Kelsey down. I'm gonna play Octopath Traveler 2, and I can't do it. And I think I always say I'm more on the Paper Mario end of the RPG spectrum. I want just kind of like lovely personality, simplicity, and there's a lot of beautiful things you can say about Octopath Traveler 1 and 2, but like the characters and story is not grabbing me in a way that Sea of Stars does. There's just something more engaging and personable, I guess, about the characters in Sea of Stars so far. And maybe Octopath gets there. I know it's a weird structure. It's a tough structure to like relate to the characters with. But yeah, I mean, how is Octopath going for you, Kelsey? I know you're diving into that one still.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm still chipping away at it, and it's gonna be a while. I think I'm like 40 hours in at this point. Yeah. So I would love to come back and talk about it when I'm like either at the end or have finished it. But still really good. Still super good. Now that have gathered all of my people and I'm at least a couple chapters into everybody's story. Very, very good. But I fully admit that is an enormous ask and pain in the butt, much like Xenoblade, which is like one of my favorite series of all time. So I get it.
But do you think that the characters in Octopath are more engaging than the first one, that they are, that, you know, that should grab me?
Than the first one, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the characters in 2 a lot better than I did the ones in 1.
Okay, but on the big range of RPG spectrums, let me continue to maybe hesitantly put in Octopath Traveler 2. Is it fair to say that like the characters and story, one of the lower notches in a great game overall? That's my read on it, at least from the starting area and from other people talking about it a bit.
That's how it starts. I don't, but the stories are definitely, they're strong now. They are all very strong now, but I don't think it's like, I don't think that's like a good thing to say about a video game. Be like, oh, if you just put your 28 hours in, then you'll start loving it. It really comes together. It's like, I get it. You don't have to do that. That's fine.
Right. Yeah,
play something else.
Yeah, but just there's something about Sea of Stars, and it's even just like the level up system, which I saw somebody Backstage Pass was talking about. Of just like it does totally feel like a Paper Mario or a Mario RPG, where it's like, you know,
Sarah, why are you writing in the Backstage Pass?
Because I don't want to interrupt the conversation.
That's the
You're
point.
on the show.
Jump
you
in.
Can just
Hang on. Let me now read what Sarah has written in Backstage Pass.
Called you out. My gosh.
Sarah
because I was like, what's going on here?
Decided to write, can I interest Ben in Baldur's Gate 3?
It sounds like you're looking for like a nice little adventure with your gang of friends.
That's not a little adventure.
Attack and dethrone God. You know,
I have to play that also. And Sea of Stars is like, I feel pretty good about like, oh yeah, like it's familiar to me. Baldur's Gate 3 isn't as much, and I'm afraid. Like, it sounds like such a me game in terms of like story and the fun, and like it's someone that doesn't do D&D but does want to get into it. And I started, like I've mentioned, but Gloomhaven, something of the something. Mm-hmm. Okay, real quick too. I'm Lee Fan says that I write in Shadow Time, and I do, but I write to y'all. I'm not writing to people on the show. I'm not like,
dear
Kelsey
Ben.
made a great point. I just write it in there. Like, so it's on such a pedestal for me, and I'm afraid. I'm like, what if it doesn't hit? And then I like it in my mind. You know what I mean? And I'm like, but I have to sit down with it. But also, I need to start playing these big games, and like, let's just start the game one day instead of being like, no, I have to have the next 30 hours have to be empty so that I can really like get my 4 out, you know. So
well, yeah, I'm looking forward to you checking out more Baldur's Gate. I mean, especially when it's coming to PS5. I'm going back to it at some point, Sarah, I promise. Okay. Here's the difference. I hear you saying this is an RPG. You should play it. It's obviously the best.
I technically didn't say it. This
right,
is just
you
an
typed it.
The community said it in the chat, which happens to include Sarah.
Right. But the difference, Sarah, is, I'm not nostalgic for CRPGs. And even though Baldur's Gate is a really great version of that, and it changes the camera perspective, all that stuff, I don't get cozy nostalgia feelings, which, as much as I'm impressed by Sea of Stars, I got it. 50% of it is because I really like 16-bit RPGs, and it feels like home to me. Whereas I go into Baldur's Gate and I feel like a moron who can't get off the ship. And so I like feeling smart when I play games. And I fully admit, I'm just not smart enough for Baldur's Gate yet. But once I stream it some more and have chat help me, maybe I can get over that hurdle. But Sarah, you digging Sea of Stars here?
I think, and I'm not nostalgic for old RPGs, so this totally didn't hit me, I think, the same way that it hit other people. The art, though, is spectacular, like the pixel art, gorgeous. Like, you can tell that's where, like, most of the money went. into that pixel art, the music. They had like an animated cinematic in the beginning that I hope I get to see
I'm
more
so
of.
confused by that cinematic though. That cinematic was literally 4 seconds.
I know.
I was like, what is the point? Why did we do this?
It's a weird thing. To be fair, I did like back in the day when you're playing some PS1 RPG and there was like a beautifully animated cutscene that was like 4 seconds. There's something, I know this is a weird bit of nostalgia, but there's some nostalgia about that. I'm just like, what? You animated that? That's such a weird thing, you know? So I imagine
it's an animation
more
of 2 people walking. Like
the
that's
nostalgia
it.
of being
4
confused.
seconds of 2 people walking.
You're like, remember when you look at something and you're like, why would they do this? I miss that feeling.
I would imagine, Kelsey, that, you know, there's a reason. I'd imagine those 2 characters who are very mysterious at this point are like going to be a big deal later on. So maybe they wanted an extra splash of like, remember these freaks, you know, something like that maybe. But I assume there's going to be more rolling through. I assume, but I'm with you. It stood out. So Sarah, impressive, but not exactly a sweet spot for you. That's the takeaway?
Yeah, I had a big issue with the writing.
Oh, really?
Like the writing was not great. Like I love RPGs. I love little adventures, but like I feel like my standards for writing with recent games is just going up and up and up. You know, like what I expect in like characterization and like you can do a lot with a little, and like I grew up in localization, so I'm used to seeing like what people can do with scripts.
Sure.
And I was just like, I don't know. I was actually like, it kind of took me out of the moment. I was so kind of like jarred by like the writing of the characters, and like you couldn't really tell one character from another when they were speaking.
Okay.
They all sounded the exact same.
I think that is very fair. I think that the 2 like main characters are not very different at all in their personality or anything.
Right.
One's like, I like to hit hard, and the other one's like, I like to hit fast.
You could literally
like, wow, I love that personality.
How can we get you in a booth to do VO for the next any project? Because I love that.
But I mean, the fact that you get to choose between them.
You could literally swap their entire dialogue and no one would notice. I guess I'm not as harsh on it as you are, but I do think the writing is just like fine.
Sure.
It's not jarring for me. It's just like sure, whatever. And the studio is French Canadian, so I don't know if any of that like plays into it at all. It might not. I think Jason Schreier pointed out there's like a lot of comma splices that I now can't unsee.
Oh no. Oh no.
But it's not like, for me that's fine. Like I'm not gonna be like, wow, can't enjoy this game because of the comma splices. But I do think that there's probably something there in it not being like a like fully, I mean, you know, French Canadian, like they speak English too, obviously, but it's a little bit more of a second language situation that maybe could have used a little bit more editing.
Yeah, like in the first hour, they keep referring to like this is like their training montage, and they're like, and we're gonna do a bunch of sewing, and all we're gonna do is sew, and then it cuts to an animation of them literally weaving.
I think it's like a joke, though.
Weaving.
Yeah,
and I'm like, weaving and sewing are not the same things.
Interesting.
They're like, oh, we're going to sew. And then they're weaving. Like, they have, like, the shuttlecock, and they're putting it through an actual loom. And I'm like, I don't know. This is, like, the first hour of your game. Maybe let's iron this out a little bit.
Hang on. Shuttlecock is involved in weaving? I thought that was just badminton.
Weaving. No. It's, like, the little, like, thing that goes back and forth. Is it not? I don't know.
Is it related?
Anyways, it was weaving and not sewing.
Okay. All right. Fair. See you stars, everybody.
Right,
weaving, not sewing. Available.
Weaving magic sounds so much better than sewing magic. That you're saying this, I'm like,
I don't know.
God,
I was reading the script and I was like, this could have sounded better. Why this doesn't make it? I had to reread a few things. And I was like, what are you trying to say here? Like, I thought that I was, like, reading a manga translated by AI. Like, that's
all right. Get down.
Like,
that's
that's
a really vivid description, though. So, like, shout out to the word picture, because, like, I haven't played this yet.
No way it's that far.
And that was, you kind of ate with that, I'm not gonna lie.
Bad.
It's pretty bad.
Real quick
pretty bad.
Before y'all move on, Chan in the Backstage Pass said, did they mention what was weird about the level up system, or did that get derailed? You guys mentioned that you liked it, right?
I did. What I like about it is, like, you know, get a level up and choose, all right, do you want HP up, magic defense up? Like, it's just choosing different categories in a very Paper Mario way. So I love that. Yeah, that was the point I was getting to at some point.
Make sure that got
Thanks, Janet. That's nice. Hang on, let me just respond to people in Backstage Pass. Baldur's Gate 3 overrated. I can't believe.
Does anyone else hate Ben? Who's writing this? How do we You're gonna write from your burner, and it's gonna be like, this is definitely Ben Hansen. You know, I got accused of being your burner a lot of times when I was modding.
Oh, really?
They're like, is this Ben? I was like, this is Janet, and they're like, how do we have a way of knowing that though? Could easily be Ben posing as Janet. So people did.
It's a mess. It's confusing.
People would see me and they assumed I was you, and I'm like, I promise I'm not Ben. Like, hello, I'm here to mod.
It was confusing, even like social media when you're handling it, and then. You know, I feel like that's always a weird thing. Is every once in a while, like if I have like a quirky tweet from the MinnMax account, people will be like, "Is this Janet?" It's like, no, it's weird when you know like the voice behind.
It's like I can be quirky too, guys.
I can make jokes.
People are waiting for your swear though on the account because I had my swear. Right, so if you want to, inject your own flavor there.
All right, well,
feel free.
Follow MinnMax Show on Twitter and learn a new swear word, everybody. The new swear word is thank you for supporting us on Patreon. All one word. Let's see. You two were at PAX, Janet and Kelsey. So as I understand it, we're going to have the next episode of Party Chat, which is our bonus podcast. Going to be like a full, Janet's showing off some hot merch. Going to be a full.
And you can get the mug also if you we're going to raffle it off for Extra Life.
Heck yeah. Yeah, we're going to do
Spoilers for the chat. We'll get more into what we have for Extra Life in that Party Chat.
Yeah, we got a lot of Nintendo Live merch because that was the big thing. And also we're going to have a travelogue going up somewhat soon, showing off travelogue entire trip and all that fun stuff. Anyways, but the next episode of Party Chat, which is our bonus podcast, is going to be kind of unpacking the entire trip and all that fun stuff. But Kelsey, I know you're working the Pink Gorilla booth. Did you get a chance to play anything super cool out there?
Nope. Janet saw me for just about 100% of my breaks. I normally take about 20 minutes to eat something and go to the bathroom, and that's my PAX. So I did get a chance to.
To be clear, I was not lurking in the bathroom while Kelsey was
using
the
judgment.
restroom.
There's no judgment.
I saw her
I took Janet every time I needed to go to the bathroom. I did at least get to walk around both halls, but I did not play anything other than Mario Wonder.
Can I ask, and you can say, shut up, I don't want to talk about this, but like setting up a whole stand at PAX for your store, financially super worth it, barely worth it if you count the exposure? Is it like a field day? Where are you at with
somewhere
that?
in between worth it and super worth it.
Okay. Sweet.
It's very, very solid. I mean, like PAX booths are expensive. We can peek behind the curtain a little bit. They are. We do a 10 by 30, and that's like the largest size before it starts getting into like, you're clearly Nintendo and you can afford whatever we ask money. So and then also we are allowed to unload and set up our own stuff. Most people are not allowed to do that. Like past a certain booth size, you have to pay the convention staff, like union workers, to do that, and it is very, very expensive. So if we had to play by like the same rules as the large booths, there would be no way. But at the size that we do, yes, definitely worth it.
Okay, Janet, number one game other than Mario Wonder, maybe, that you played at PAX? What stands out if you had to boil it down? And we'll unpack everything else in Party Chat. All right, what do you got?
So I also didn't play very much. Like people ask me a lot about like, what have you been playing? What's the best? What's the worst? I was like, y'all, I played like 6 games. Because again, I was focused on vlogging Nintendo Live. So I spent a lot of my time there.
Okay.
So I really didn't play nearly as much. Normally I'm playing at least like 1 to maybe 2 dozen like demos. Like I did a couple, but I think my favorite thing, and if I think of something else, I'll obviously mention it in the Party Chat, was let me make sure I get this title right. I believe it's called, if you could Google it for me, Ben, I'd appreciate it. I believe it's called Pepper Grinder by Devolver Digital.
Ooh, okay. Oh yeah, I remember that thing.
I love it. I love it. I got the foam finger for it, but I forgot it at the ramen shop that I went to later. So, but this is it's funny because it's like, there's little trends that pop up in games, like, and sometimes, usually coincidentally, like sometimes it is like, there's a lot of Vampire Survivor type games coming out now, and I think that is very much like, we feel like it's cool, let's lean into it. But drills are kind of making a splash, because Pepper Grinder has a drill. Mino the Hollower also involves like kind of burrowing, and Mario Wonder has the drill burrow system as well. Yeah. So it's time to take to the walls.
Take to the walls, America!
Take to the walls and take to the ground in video games.
Yeah, this game, but it looks kind of like Drill Dozer, like Game Freak's old game. Remember, it was on Kyle's radar because of that, because you're just like digging through it. It looks awesome.
It's pretty much I'm not sure how they couch it, but it is pretty much a like adventure kind of platformery game in the sense that you are like maneuvering, and you have the drill, you're burrowing down, you kind of are collecting these gems, and you sort of use the drill to help propel you into different areas at times. And, you know, there's enemies and things as well. And I just feel like the feeling, the vibe, the sort of character design of the person you have is really fun. Like, I saw it and I was like, immediately, yes. Like, I have not heard of this game yet. Holy cow. And it's now like very much on my radar. I do believe that's going to be a 2024 title. So.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah. Pepper Grinder is the name of that thing. That's cool. Yeah, a lot more PAX unpacking in the party chat than the Nintendo Live vlog. Real quick, Nintendo Live, thumbs up. More impressive, less impressive than you thought?
I said this in the vlog. I'm like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but I'm glad it was free. Like, it was a cool, very cool experience. Lots of awesome photo ops. It looked really awesome in there. There just wasn't enough like activities for it to feel like an experience you'd like pay for.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. My take is pretty much, I mean, it's the same as Kelsey's, but like, I just to add like my own like flavor to it. I think it is very cute for like families, particularly because there weren't that many kids, but there definitely were some kids there with their parents. And I think that's cute and cool, right? They can wait in line and like get a picture with like, Kirby or something. Granted, those lines can get a little long in the tooth. And also, just to put it out there, like, I like taking pictures too. It's not like I'm above taking photos. Like, me and Kelsey had a lot of fun getting the photo ops and getting to do the Animal Crossing photos. And, we put this all up on our Instagram. But if you are like an adult without kids attending, it is very much Instagram with an orchestra. The orchestra is dope. And also Instagram with an orchestra. That sounds awesome. But, and then Wonder was there as well. So yeah. I feel like if there's a big game there that you really want to play, like in this case, Wonder, like that can be cool. I will say too, because me and Kelsey like had the press content creator treatment and got walked in.
Sure.
That's very chill. Everybody else has to wait in like a really long queue, which like a convention is about waiting in lines for sure. And obviously like we have the privileged experience of not having like the normal wait other people have to do.
Sure.
But yeah, like it's cute. It's very much them promoting, hey, here's a reminder that we have Splatoon and we have like, a Lego collab and like it's a cute event, but it is very much like a family event. And by fan, I mean like also too in the more, not in the more casual sense, but like there's not a lot of hands-on new games.
Yeah, sure.
So like obviously I'm a big Nintendo fan, but I can play Splatoon, Tears of the Kingdom at home. So it's like, okay, like there's really just Wonder there in terms of being playable. But
it looked like
cute.
I was looking through your photos, and it looked like a lot of their decor was like decor they had used at past like E3 and
that
PAX
too.
West.
It's a lot of
They literally just sort of raided the Nintendo storehouse for like decorations I've already seen, and then like it kind of gives like the common man like what would a Nintendo E3 booth be like? Like
it literally had a ton of their E3 stuff. It had all their E3 Smash stuff. It had like there was definitely some new stuff too, but it was, I was like, oh, I've seen that. It's
a lot of like, I can finally take that picture that I've seen someone took in 2018. But like, I was still hyped to take it. Like being with like the stupid Tom Nook and Isabel, I'm like, honestly, I'm kind of like taken aback by their presence, even though they are just people inside costumes.
They're celebrities.
That's what I joked with the Nintendo person that gave us the tour. I said, I always get so nervous around celebrities, and I'm like, he's like, you can hold their hand. I'm like, oh my god, I love you. I spent 100 hours in your game. Hello. Oh boy. But yeah, it's a photo op thing. It's a cutesy kids thing. Like
that's cool. Yeah, we'll have a whole travelogue showing off all that fun stuff. Up on our YouTube channel soon, and then Party Chat next week for more PAX stuff. All right, Kelsey, let's get to the frickin' meat and potatoes of this episode, please. The Making of Karateka, of course. Don't pronounce it any other way. A game that I remember learning about this game when like the 2012 remake came out. And everyone's like, oh, you don't know Karateka? It's super important. It's an old Apple II game. I was like, what? I mean, Apple II is my jam. That's what I grew up on. And now after watching this, I feel like I missed out on so much. If I would have had this for my Apple II, it would have been my favorite game growing up because it just seems light years beyond anything I was playing back in the day. But before we dive into the weeds here, let's get the basics. So Digital Eclipse made this. They also made, Atari 50 last year. And this is the first, or it's a member of what they're calling the Gold Master series, where it's kind of an interactive documentary. And I think it's a really cool idea. Instead of doing a whole company over 50 years, like we're just going to focus on one game. And if you don't know Karateka, it's Jordan Mechner who made it for the Apple II when he was in college. But why it's relevant to today's industry is a bunch of reasons, but one of them is that he then used this experience to move on and make Prince of Persia. Then he was involved, of course, with Prince of Persia Sands of Time. And then the Prince of Persia series went on to evolve into Assassin's Creed. So like there's a fun line you can draw from this early 1984 Apple II game to the entire Assassin's Creed franchise, even though this isn't a Ubisoft joint, but that talent, the development pipeline led to that. But Kelsey, what was your experience with Making of Karateka here?
Yeah, oh my God, this is just such a beautiful version of the thing that I have kept hearing the folks at Digital Eclipse explain, with every one of their releases, that like they really want this sort of interactive documentary experience, and they've made some absolutely incredible titles, and I've loved all of them, and I really feel like this is the most pure and perfect form of it. Yep. And I know a huge part of this, just for context, Jordan Mechner donated, first of all, like total, I don't want to say pack rat, but like he's just a very meticulous man who he journaled every single day of his life, starting at like age 18 or something like that. He kept all of his notes, his prototypes, all this stuff, and he donated all of it to the Strong Museum of Play. So this is like by far just the biggest treasure trove, like wealth of knowledge you can have on one person's career and the development of a game that was made, essentially by one person, although he had some help from his family. And because of that, it's this incredibly rich understanding of like exactly how this evolved, exactly who this person was. And you have lots of interviews and stuff in there and like video content. But the coolest thing is that like you're kind of jumping in and playing at all. Like you'll learn a couple things and then it'll give you something to jump in and play. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to play it. Like I'm not very good at his game before Karateka Death Bounce that they have like 4 different versions of.
I did kind of like it
and
though.
So yeah, by like the second or third version of it, I was just pressing the watch button and just watching the gameplay.
Right.
And then they made a freaking, like, I haven't asked, I assume this was Mike Micah at Digital Eclipse that made the, like, new version of Death Bounce that's, like, actually very good and very fun.
It's same with Atari 50. The part that kills me is, when Digital Eclipse basically remakes these games that were like prototypes that never saw the light of day. Like that level of, it's like if somebody went into like, I don't know what the equivalent is. It took your poetry that you wrote just in your own little journal in high school and then made a professional film based on that. It's just like the level of...
That sounds horrifying.
I guess
good,
in a flattering
But like they make
the content is better.
They make it good. Yeah,
this
it's so sweet.
Jordan Mechner as a teenager programming this game that he wants to get published by Broderbund, and he keeps sending different iterations of it, and he's like, okay, I've listened to your feedback, here's this. Every single version of this freaking is playable. Like you get like the first version he sent, and then you get like, okay, I've implemented some of the feedback, and then you get to play that, and like bugs and glitches and all of that galore, although he's a very good programmer, so it says there's this is a prototype. There's no glitches in these games. They're beautiful. It's
not going to break. But the same point. What's cool too is just you experience things that you never get to experience anywhere else in the game industry of like, okay, he submitted this game, Asteroid Blaster, very clearly a ripoff of Asteroid, right? And so then you get to see and play all the different variations and evolutions of this as he's getting feedback from a company being like, we would publish this, but we're going to get sued by Atari. So dial down the Asteroid element a little bit, and like getting to play multiple drafts of a game as the developer is trying to make it less and less like the game that it's clearly ripping off till eventually it's just a game called Star Blaster. Like where else do you get to experience that? It's awesome, weird historical stuff.
Yeah. And the way it's laid out, I think, is just like the perfect amount of context in between giving you a thing to do. So, he did journal every single day of his life. They don't put in very many of his journal entries. They just put in the ones that are going to be, here's something here's an important thing, on this date, or like, this is how he was feeling, like, oh, I just had this really good idea for, making this better. And then you get to play, the next thing over is like you playing what he implemented.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's like a photo of, or a scan of like, his design document where he's like, I had this great idea. Then there's the document of him like writing out that great idea and drawing it out, and then you get to play it. It is, I know we're totally dorking out right now, but like this is just, I've known they've been working on this on and off for a while, and I hope they get to do a ton more of these, and I hope they get to do them in a way where I don't exactly know the like licensing rights for, like, I don't know if Jordan Mechner himself owns all the IP or Doug Carlston does and he's still alive and he's just cool, or what. I mean, this is going to be a difficult thing to convince like Konami to do, you know, like let them go that deep behind the scenes. But I can't wait to see more of this kind of stuff because it's so incredible. And if you have even like a passing interest in game history or game development, super, super, super worth checking out.
Making of Karateka is the name of it. I mean, you mentioned the Konami thing. I mean, we had Chris Kohler on the podcast last year talking about the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Cowabunga collection, which felt kind of like a prototype, in a way, version of this idea, you know?
Every Digital Eclipse product up till this point, Atari 50th was pretty close to this too, but like everything up to this point has felt like they're just like chipping away at like what this could truly be. Yep. And it finally is the thing it can truly be.
They need like a making of the Digital Eclipse stuff.
Well, I mean, they kind of have it. What's wild is because they have like a full remake of Karateka. Please forgive me. And then they have a commentary track in that. So you get to hear Mike Micah talking about the process of why this game is so difficult to remake and stuff as you're playing it. They have a friend of the show, Kirk Hamilton from Triple Click. They have like a whole podcast with him breaking down the music of it. And that was the part that just slayed me is, Sarah, this guy, Jordan Mechner, who made this old game, he worked on it with his dad. So he's like a college kid who was just collaborating with his dad. And his dad's just this sweet old man in his 90s who's just like giving him good ideas of like, you know, there's this old thing called rotoscoping. You could try doing that for smoother animations. Or like, hey, why don't you incorporate music into the game and make it a little more cinematic? And like, this is the era where those were like revolutionary video game ideas. And so he's still alive. And so they have interviews with him and his dad. And it is the sweetest damn thing. Like, what other video game do you get to like experience the relationship between this creator and his father within the game? It is very sweet. It would melt you, Sarah. You'd be a puddle on the floor if you saw this man's dad.
My dad thinks I made Tears of the Kingdom. So, joke's on you.
Well, anybody can lie to their parents.
I was literally playing Tears of the Kingdom in my living room, and I had just gotten like my new job, and my dad walks in and he looks at Tears of the Kingdom and he goes, "Is that your game, Sarah?" And I was like, wow, Dad, I like really appreciate that like you think that I'm like some brilliant game designer. I really appreciate that you're trying to be interested in my job, but this is absolutely not my game.
There's one little detail in here, and I guess Jordan Mechner tweeted it out, but they have a fan letter in this collection, and it's like 2 pages long, just this guy gushing like, you know, I'm trying to be a programmer creator myself. I love Karateka. What you did here is so impossible. I'm curious, how did you do this scaling? How did you do this? How did you do this? But oh my gosh, I cannot praise you enough. This is truly the best. I hope you stay tuned for my next couple games because I think they're really going to be good. And it's from John Romero. Like before id, he was like a 17-year-old just fan, and this game blew him away. And the fact that Jordan Mechner saved that letter is also just mind-boggling.
I saw this letter like 5 years ago when I went to the Strong Museum of Play and was just looking through some of the Jordan Mechner collection. And that was one of the things that they wanted to point out. They're like, also, look what he has.
Oh my God.
Look at this.
So wild.
It's so good. If you're a game developer right now, the best thing you can be doing is just saving all of your stuff and maybe keeping a daily journal forever for the rest of your life.
Please.
Is that too much to ask?
Nope. And then reach out to Digital Eclipse, please. It's all we ask of you. But yeah, I mean, you talk about other publishers and how they're probably going to be pretty reluctant to this type of thing. You know, at the end of this, they do kind of tease like, and then he went on to make Prince of Persia, ... I was like, God, it'd be cool if Ubisoft let them do a whole making of the first Prince of Persia, if they already have all this material ready to go. But I don't know, this is maybe selfish too, but it's like, there's just so many big games out there that they could do this type of treatment with, even with relatively easy publisher agreements and stuff. Like, I'd want to see Oregon Trail done with this. I think people would be interested in like every version of the Oregon Trail, but diving in that way.
That'd be
like,
super cool.
I think it's possible. But who knows? Also, it killed me. They had a whole, I think it was a standalone video in this where they just talked about the ending of Karateka. And so, Sarah, it's this brutal game. You're a karate guy going through fighting bad guys, yada, yada, yada. And it's just like, if you die, you start all the way over at the beginning. Just incredibly brutal is the idea. If you beat the final boss, so I should have mentioned, throughout the entire game, you have like your jogging pose and then kind of like your fight pose where you're kind of like slowly inching forward and backward. But if you beat the final boss and then naturally go to the next room where the princess is that you're trying to save, if you're in your fighting pose, which you should be because you just beat the final boss, the princess thinks that you're a bad guy guard and she kicks you in the neck and you die. And you have to start over from the beginning.
More games should, that's how Mario Odyssey should have ended.
That's right. You need to be like in the calmest way possible.
And at the very beginning of the game, you start by like climbing up onto this cliff that you're just on the rest of the game. If you just like step backwards, you just fall and tumble to your death.
Good
it's just
gaming.
Instant game over.
That's it. Making of Karateka is the type of thing that, one of my favorite experiences of the year is truly going through this. I really, really loved it. And it's the type of thing that
is it just like on Steam or like what's
Yep, it's everywhere, I believe. It's $20, which, even though I absolutely loved it, I'm like, I feel like 15 would maybe move some more, but I don't know anything about this, so more power to them.
It's so worth it. It's so worth it.
I imagine everyone
playing it on
buying
Steam Deck, by the way, and it's flawless.
Same.
I imagine everyone's kind of doing it for the culture at this point. Like you're like, is there? I don't know if there's a number that you and Kelsey wouldn't have bought it at, kind of thing.
Right.
I get that. Obviously, cheaper is always more accessible for people.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I saw Chris Kohler tweet out, like it's like Garrett Martin from I think Paste was like, digital clubs should do this for every game ever. Yep. And Chris was like, he quote tweeted and said, "This would mean I have a job forever." So okay, so yeah, hopefully,
absolutely.
Hopefully, they get to keep doing what they're doing. I haven't checked these out yet. I guess I will. I probably should at some point because they do sound interesting.
You should.
I will say though, and like no shade digital clips, like it sounds like they're doing like some dope stuff. However, I am about to put every digital clips game on the 210s every freaking year, okay? Like, we gotta find a new spot for these. I'm sorry, sports
it's a great piece of art of all time.
Yeah, I think
we could move it over to that. We could.
Well, here's the thing, and I'm not saying that to like be like, I don't know, an ass about it, but it sounds like y'all will always like love these, and that's great because they sound awesome. I wonder what's the best way to acknowledge that isn't just taking a slot in the 210s.
It's a little bit of that.
I don't know.
They're different, but it feels a little bit like that Jackbox problem where, at Game Informer, we'd always fight for it to be on the top 50 games. And people are like, we can't put Jackbox on the list every year. I'm like, it's some of the most fun experiences you can have every year,
I saw what they were working on for their next pack, and I'm like, why are they so good at making games? Like, it's wild.
Ooh, a making of Jackbox party pack.
I would say either this automatically, I want this either automatically not in the 210s or automatically on the 210s. You can pick which one you want, but I just don't want to have to do the song and dance of.
We can't.
Technically, preservation's like better than like. Let's just either auto put it on there.
I am so like. This is a amazing experience. Yeah. This is an incredible experience. It is not. It has nothing to do with like. I like history. I like game preservation, and I mean, obviously, like that's why it is interesting to me is because I like history, but like. The actual experience that they have built around this is incredible. Yep. And there are plenty of like just basic compilations of old games that would never, ever.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think this is more than a compilation, but I also think it sits. I think well, I'm gonna just hit it up and then we'll talk. I guess we'll talk about it.
Oh, we'll
talk about it.
We will. I think it
I will fight you.
If you want to just square up, but then I'm gonna do my work. Then I'm gonna hit it up and then I'm gonna have to come back at that point.
Give us your
play
worst.
it first and see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm gonna play. No, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'll check it out.
Yep, please. Hey, Sarah, do you know about the making of Karateka? I'm sorry. I mean, how this whole thing operates.
The Patreon.
That's right, folks. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. They're words that can come out of our mouths, but they are only powerful if you type them in like a spell, cast them into your nearest browser. Patreon.com/MinnMax with 2 N's. Just check out those tiers. Find the tier that's right for you. Help support independent games media. If you find the tier that's sustainable for you, that makes us sustainable and that makes us happy. So please help us out. We'd appreciate it. Unlock a bunch of benefits over there. Thank you to some of our biggest supporters. If you don't don't know who they are, I'm talking about HelloFresh, everybody. With HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. Skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why, of course, it's America's #1 meal kit. The other day, I heard a little ding-dong at the door and went to get it, and it was a big box of HelloFresh sitting on the doorstep, and I was like, oh, that's weird that they sent another one for doing the ads. I feel like they just sent one not too long ago. Nay, it was not them. It was my in-laws who were staying for over a week, and they ordered HelloFresh of their own volition, not even knowing there was a reporter. And we had that in a big group family meal, and they said, my God, HelloFresh is so good. And I kept my mouth shut for the entire week, but also I kept my mouth shut about that idea that, hey, technically we support them on the podcast. These people of their own volition got it, and it's damn good. HelloFresh, everybody. You can kickstart a fresh fall routine with HelloFresh. HelloFresh handles all the meal planning and shopping to deliver anything you need to cook up a tasty meal right at home. They do the hard part, and you get to take the credit, they say. Also, when it comes to options, honestly, more is more. They want you to know. That's why HelloFresh menu includes 40 recipes and over 100 add-on items to choose from every single week. Easy cooking, everybody. HelloFresh. Go to HelloFresh.com/50MinnMax and use code 50MinnMax. That's 50 the number for 50% off plus 15% off for the next 2 months. 50MinnMax. HelloFresh.com/50MinnMax, everybody. Please. It is America's #1 meal kit. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that. Also, shout out, of course, to our friends at I'm8bit. They want you to know about Primal, the vinyl soundtrack to Primal, the animated show from Jenny Tartakovsky, from Dexter's Laboratory fame and 1,000 other shows, but I'm a Dexter's Lab man myself. So check out that vinyl soundtrack at I'm8bit's wonderful online store. It is quite cool. Everything in their store will impress you, I promise, if you just go check out I'm8bit and their online store. And the beautiful thing is if you use the promo code, I don't get this reference, maybe you all are smarter, Return of Chicken Boy. Promo code is Return of Chicken Boy, no space. Is that a reference to September somehow or something? Anyways, Return of Chicken Boy, everybody, for 10% off of everything under $100 in I'm8bit store. That's a MinnMax exclusive bonus for you, so check that out. Help support them because they help support us in a huge way. And shout out to I'm8bit for helping to support MinnMax by shipping out a prize each and every week to a Patreon supporter over there on Patreon from the community. This week, whoever has the best question wins something near and dear to my heart. This is the double vinyl album to Big Bang, music from the universe of Genesis Noir. If you remember Genesis Noir from a couple years ago, a really awesome looking indie game. I think about it every 3 months and just think like, God, that is truly one of the best looking games I've ever seen in my life. And one of the best sounding because the soundtrack rules if you like jazz. So whoever is the best question of the week will win that prize from I'm8bit. Also, there's links below for all this fun stuff. Yes, Janet?
When I Googled Return of Chicken Boy, a picture for Flickr came up that said the Statue of Liberty for the city of Los Angeles has returned, and it's a giant chicken boy. So okay. I don't know. I haven't seen this. Like, I'm in LA, but I have not seen every single thing that is in Los Angeles. I don't know how old this is. Maybe that's the reference.
There it is. Return of Chicken Boy is the code, everybody. 10% off. All right. Deuterado writes in. They say, howdy crew. Are we currently living in the best era of RPGs ever? With games like Final Fantasy 16, Final Fantasy 16, and Final Fantasy 16 all releasing this. Oh, I'm sorry. Final Fantasy 16, Baldur's Gate 3, Sea of Stars, and Starfield all releasing this year. There's something amazing for all types of RPG fans. Is this the golden era?
Yeah, I thought this question was silly at first, and then I was like, wait a sec. No, I think it's right. I think so, actually. And I wouldn't have picked all of those examples just because they're not all necessarily the types of RPGs I'm playing. But yeah, I mean, I was just talking about Octopath Traveler 2 being incredible. Yep. The Xenoblade series wrapped up last year, and it was probably my favorite JRPG experience of all time. Like,
whoa. I mean, but the DLC was this year, right?
Oh, the DLC was this year, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you factor that and Octopath in here, I don't know if anything can beat 2023 for RPG releases. It's pretty bananas.
And that DLC is like, I'm going to be arguing for it in the 210s the way Sarah was arguing for her DLC. So,
that was it. Echoes of the Eye. Yeah.
Yep. Well, we all know
and then Ben will put it based on what is respect level for you. So you'll get third.
Number 3.
You know what? Number 3. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 DLC.
I'm just going to sit out of the 210s this year. It's not worth it.
I feel like we opened up the can of unearthing like the 210 salt early, and I'm scared that I can't close it again, and I feel like I regret.
Well, because it's like trying
guys, it's September. We need to simmer down.
Yeah, I mean, we can either sprinkle the salt on every meal throughout the year, or we can consume it like one giant deer lick with the 210s, and we're choosing to sprinkle it. You know?
Like, I think the thing is, and like, you know, obviously it's all for fun, right? Like, it's just like a cool piece of content that we make. But for me, at least, it's having now done it, like, because this will be like my second time. Third time? I don't know. But I feel like now we're kind of like, we've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now we're like, I don't know. It lives
now.
with me now. The 210s live with me.
Yeah. Vincent L writes in, has there ever been a party in a video game that actually looked fun? All of the nightclubs in Mass Effect looked miserable. The midnight fireworks at Carnival of Time and Majora's Mask had more guards than attendees. The early game celebration in Baldur's Gate 3 was a snooze fest. Is it possible to make a party look fun in a video game?
There was a party in Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles.
Okay.
Where like you would bring the mana back to the crystal, and then you would power up the crystal, and it was like the "we're not gonna die" party. Because every season you had to go out, bring back mana, power up the crystal to keep the monsters away.
Right.
And like that party was lit. Like we had like Moogles were dancing, people were playing, everybody was like in a big circle. Like whenever that would come on, I was playing in multiplayer with my friend. We would literally just get up and dance because like the music was bopping. I didn't have to. It was a hard game, and I like felt like I accomplished something. We weren't gonna die anymore. Like honestly, that's like the one video game party I'd want to go to.
Can we go to that now? Can we theme a real world party in the MinnMax studio after the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles party?
Yeah, but someone has to get really good at doing backflips.
Good news. Jeffum is amazing at it. He's quite a gymnast. He probably could.
You know, I would have believed you if you said you could do a backflip.
Me?
Yeah, you look like you could do a backflip.
Yeah. Yeah, you look like you could do a backflip, right?
No.
You also look like you can do at least one magic trick. Is that true?
I'm not going to comment on that. I might have.
That would hurt my feelings.
I have a magic kit
magic
stored in a closet, but I don't need to ever whip it out. That's fine. No, I can't do anything physical. A backflip, no way. Like I grew up with a trampoline too, and I would maybe do half a front flip as the best I could do after 10 years of jumping every single day. This question made me think of. I probably bring it up too much. I feel like Kyle and I, all we do in an attempt to be funny and interesting is quote things that Leo Vader said before. But like Leo, when we were doing the deepest dive on Mass Effect, there's the big scene where you become a Spectre and you're the first human Spectre and it's a big deal. And they have like the whole auditorium. And when we were doing the deepest dive, Leo Vader said that the crowd that was celebrating you becoming a human Spectre looked like a quote Xbox 360 amount of people. And I think about that all the time for like, hey, how many people can we get on the screen? Like four and maybe one sprite in the background. And so I think that's the problem with like video game parties is like animating a bunch of people in a way that looks good is so impossible. Maybe Hitman could do it.
Do parties have to be ragers though? Like I think just like any celebration in Animal Crossing is very sweet and nice looking.
Yeah, those
like,
are cute.
You know, New Year's Day in your Animal Crossing town and everyone's just kind of wandering around, especially in the GameCube one where the fireworks are happening like as reflections on the water. So like the water's got the fireworks in it and stuff. Yeah. I think that's very cute and very chill. I'd go to that party.
Anything's a party if it's just like a social thing that you want to go to. Like even just in RPG when they're sitting around the campfire, like, is that a party?
Oh, no, like I'm talking like New Year's celebration. Sure. Is that not a party?
I guess it is.
There's like fireworks and like balloons and stuff.
Yeah, I guess that's
and
true.
I will say a lot of parties are just standing around.
Yeah, like I was going to say like low-key.
I was just thinking, he's like, oh yeah, the Baldur's Gate 3 party, everyone's just standing there. And it's like, yeah, most of the parties I've been to, like I've been to some like, sure, we all have gone to a rager before, but like most of the parties are just everyone standing around with their drink like.
Yeah. Like I'm like that sounds like
that he's never been to a party before.
How's it going? How you doing?
Housing prices, am I right? Oh. Welcome to your 30s, everybody. This is what people talk about.
That's what happens when you get into your 30s and then you go to parties. You talk about the economy.
Yeah, welcome to hell. Derek writes in, they say, here are my questions. Do you like to dance? Do you dance? Are you a good dancer? And may I have this dance? Yes, you may, Derek.
That's adorable.
Please, take us away.
Yes, I like to dance. What's the second
one? Do you dance?
I do dance. I don't dance that as much as I would like to, I think, in a sense, because I am crippled by existing. I'm not good at dancing. And
Really?
What does it
you
mean
cannot have this dance because I'm here.
What does it mean to say yes, I dance? Like I'll do like stupid dances in my house, like just being an idiot. But
to me,
I'm
I
not
read it
like
like
counts.
if
That's
you're
a
at a
party.
wedding, do you like get up and dip on the dance floor?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
how I kind of
okay.
thought. Or like at a party where people are dancing, because a lot of parties, like Sarah said, you're just standing, so you're not dancing.
Right.
But like if there's a dance floor, am I gonna see you on the dance floor without having to like, be like, please,
You will see
Kelsey,
me on the
like we gotta
dance
go
floor.
out there, like, are you like, oh hey, you want to dance? And then we're like out there.
Yeah. Oh, big time. I was just at a wedding this last weekend. Maybe this is in poor taste, but there's a guy who I knew forever that was at the wedding, and I noticed he wasn't dancing, and maybe had a couple beers in me, but I went over and picked him up and brought him to the dance floor and dropped him off on it. So I've definitely evolved in a big way as I've gotten older in being like, you know what? Yeah, I look like an idiot, but dancing is more fun than not dancing. And if you're at a wedding, just frickin' dance, everybody. No one cares what you look like unless you're really drunk and making a scene, which don't do that. Be drunk and make a scene by picking people up and bringing them to the dance floor only.
Did they dance after you did
They
that?
did. They stayed on the dance floor. It was a mission
gonna go-
accomplished.
But did they like dance or did they just kind of like
They did fine.
did this
they
while
were
slowly
being held
moving back to
hostage
their
I think
on
that
the
still can
dance
count.
floor?
Because some
That
people just
totally
can't
counts.
like I don't think I
Yes.
can dance. I'm not doing like wild moves here, when I
Yeah,
dance.
they're not break dancing when I brought him out. They didn't get a circle going around him.
Two things. One, just gonna go on record. I tell this to a lot of people because I'm very small.
Yeah.
Do not pick me up. I do
Sure.
not like being picked up. People pick you up when you're small all the time without consenting to being picked up.
Right.
Don't pick me up.
Co-signed.
Only Isaiah can pick me up. That's it.
Interesting.
Like I don't, or if you ask or something, or I don't know, don't go pick me up. Two, Kelsey, you never actually answered. So are you hitting the floor at like a wedding?
So I'm not super into dancing, but the last wedding I was at, there was like no one dancing, and my partner and I were like, okay, we have to start dancing because I feel bad that no one's dancing. So
Yeah.
I will do that, but I'm not like, it's not like my preferred like way to have fun or anything. It's
Right,
more just
right.
like I feel like this should be happening. We should be doing a little bit of this. I'll have fun a little bit, but I don't want to dance all night or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I do play a lot of DDR.
Oh,
so-
right.
as of very recently.
Yeah,
and that is not dancing at all. That is flailing your legs, but it's,
How's that crusade going? Getting back into DDR?
I am slowly getting back into shape.
Sweet.
There was a song that I used to be super, super good at that is extremely difficult. It's called Zephyr in DDR Supernova for any of the nerds here. On the really high levels, on like expert and challenge and stuff, and I can beat it again.
Whoa.
I'm not like doing, not like double Aing it or anything, but
Yeah.
I can keep up now, so I'm getting there.
That's sweet.
And then I collapse on the floor because it's very fast and very difficult song.
I've probably talked about this before, but my wife is a big dancer, and she was really into like swing dancing for a very long time.
Oh, cute. Yeah.
Which really is delightful, but it stresses me out, and it still is a little bit, because every time we're like dancing at a wedding or something, she is so used to having somebody else lead and her follow that like she will look at me in a way that makes me uncomfortable, because she's like trying to analyze what I'm doing on the dance floor to see if she can like follow with it, and it's like trying to look into trying to find patterns in static on TV. It's just pure chaos. It's like, just don't look at me. It's, like there's the only thing uncomfortable at dancing is if someone's paying attention to you, and you have a partner who's very focused on like that's her training is she's got to follow the person who's leading, and it's scary.
Have y'all like done any class together? Like have you thought,
We
are you down
did.
to learn how to swing dance?
Yeah, I think it was in Better Quest, we talked about it a while ago. But yeah, I took like a month of classes in Barboa, whatever that variant is. It was hell on earth. Mike Lynch writes in, they say, hey, if a person didn't move their body for 60 years, would they wrinkle at all?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It
Still be
depends on the
losing-
type of wrinkles. Like, I feel like you probably wouldn't get like smile lines on your face, but like your skin's still gonna lose elasticity, right?
Well,
Am I crazy?
I don't know. I don't think you're crazy, but it's an interesting hypothetical. Like, is every wrinkle just a result of skin stretching and then unstretching?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so either, Sarah. Come on, we're not
I think
silly.
a lot of them are, because like your arms and,
Like it would
and stuff get
sag.
wrinkly, and it's not like because you're moving that a lot, unlike your face.
I thought it had to do with like collagen in your skin. like when you age, you have less and less of it, and that's what makes your skin kind of like to your face.
Oh, really? Ugh.
Yeah.
Did anybody play that DMC game from 2013, the Ninja Theory one? There's the grossest ladies in that game. You gotta check out this gross lady because she's all old and her face is all gross. But then what she does, she takes her skin and she's like, and she like basically puts her skin in a ponytail to make it tight.
You can do that. I mean, not that.
Excuse
but like
me?
People do that. Like the tape.
You can do that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do that? You can do the DMC gross lady thing?
People tape their faces. They don't put it in a ponytail.
Yes, exactly. That's why I had to dial back immediately. I'm like, just so you know. No, also, Kelsey, Sarah, missed opportunity. We could have just really committed and Ben would have no way of not knowing that.
Known.
How would I have ever known?
Oh yeah, that's what Botox is, actually. Is they just put your skin in a ponytail.
You just always have to wear a hat over the skin ponytail on the back.
Or just get like really big hair, to cover it.
Right.
Yeah.
I was listening to this interview with Jane Fonda recently where it was really sad, where she was talking about like how much she regretted all the work she did on her face and her body throughout the years. Like that's to be like in your 80s and be like, you know what? It turns out my natural body would have been beautiful. I really regret this. Oh, that's such a scary thought. Anyway, Slycut writes in. They say, hey, everybody, I have a very... Don't you think that's scary, Sarah?
Yeah, imagine being so scared to age that you would like physically alter your appearance and then it comes back to bite you. Yeah, imagine being a woman.
Anyway, Slycut writes in with a very relatable question saying, hello, everybody. I have a very important question. 100 Ben Hansons versus a silverback gorilla. Who would win? It's a fight to the death of the gorilla or all of the Bens. The fight takes place in an open field. No weapons or armor allowed.
I hate to say it.
100?
100.
You're going down 100 times. Really?
I kind of agree with that. Okay, Ben just told us he can't do anything physical and he can't do a backflip.
No.
100 is an overwhelming amount of people. You could just start piling on the gorilla and suffocate
Do you think the Bens would be able to communicate that kind of strategy to each other?
How dare you, Sarah?
The pile-on strategy?
We would just yell the phrase pile-on strategy. What else is there to communicate?
I won't go fully into it for spoiler's sake. So like light spoiler tag for Nope, like very light. That scene, that would happen 100 times over.
Interesting.
If you know, you know.
Interesting.
It would be horrific. I hate to say, you're gonna get it. I'm scared thinking about it.
If the gorilla was so smart that they just like stood in one spot and swung in a circle like a helicopter blade of gorilla arms, nobody's getting through that.
And the Bens were not smart enough to stop coming at the gorilla while it's doing.
How would you kill the gorilla? With your bare hands? That's my question. They got big. You need at least like 3 Bens at the same time.
100 of them.
But every second more going down.
Overwhelm the gorilla with Ben weight. Like I think some Bens will die in the process. The ones on the bottom, But
we didn't like them anyway.
I think there would be a huge loss of Bens.
Oh,
I think all of them are going down.
Yes, you would sacrifice some Bens for sure, but I think that there would definitely be like 10 survivors at the end. You'd win.
Also, can you run this poll on Twitter? Also,
that's a great idea. I was just at a zoo and there was a gorilla, big silverback, I assume. If it's a big gorilla, I'll just say it's a silverback. But he was sitting with his back to the glass and you could like sit down on the ledge of the window just to get that size comparison. It is, I know we all know that gorillas are huge, but it was recently humbling again. So I think this gorilla's taking us down. I appreciate the faith you have in me, Kelsey, but I don't know. I don't know.
I feel like with the 100 Bens, though, you'd be getting in your own way. Like, that's almost too many Bens to, like, a detrimental effect.
Yep,
is there a video
Bens
like, you'd be bumping into each other.
If there's a leader that can strategize, and Ben, would you listen to yourself? If you were part of the Ben army and there was a Ben in charge, would you listen to that Ben?
No, and they kind of ran through this problem in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. They basically had this exact situation, and then there were like versions of Ant-Man who's like, listen to me, hundreds of other Ant-Men. And it's like, no, there's no way, because you would feel just as Ben Hansen as anybody else, so you wouldn't listen to some guy.
That's the thing. Do they all have your personality, or are they all like a muted version of you? Or are they all different?
All same
is
personality.
Is there like a severanced version of Ben that's like a blank slate?
There's like
that
multiverse Bens in there.
If there's like the one who can do a
you've got
backflip.
Like Italian Ben, you've got like evil Ben, you have all.
Yeah, the Ben who didn't let Xenoblade Chronicles 3 climb to number 3 at the top of the 210s last year. All sorts of variants. Yeah. Witty Nickname here writes in, they say, hello, MinnMaxers. I've been waiting for Kelsey to be on the show to ask this. From a game preservation stance, is there any value whatsoever to something like The Last Hope, which is that atrocious Last of Us ripoff, which got a lot of attention for its shoddiness before being pulled from the Switch eShop earlier this summer. I know it's trash and doesn't add anything to the gaming world at large, but I also recognize I'm unaware how wide a net we're trying to cast with game preservation. It technically existed as a game, so it's not like some canceled vaporware game. I'm curious if Kelsey can speak to whether anyone can or should care about preserving weird outliers like this, or if it's good riddance when a game like The Last Hope disappears.
You have already answered your own question by saying there was a lot of media attention and people were talking about it. It's relevant, baby.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm going to try to not make this a super long explanation. Like, it is physically impossible that we will like perfectly archive and save every single game, and every single game will be playable and easily searchable, and just with the bazillions of whatever's coming out on Steam and mobile and all of that and itch.io every day, we're not going to catch it all. But I think nor would any of that really be findable. Like if it's just ball bounce number 93 or whatever, like no one's ever going to know to even look for that or where to find it or what to write about it. But as soon as you have some level of relevance for a game, I think it's at least important that we have some record that this existed. Does it have to be playable? Not necessarily. Maybe it can just be like a video or some, news articles and some screenshots and stuff. But like, if people were talking about it, I think we've already decided that it's noteworthy, right? And it also speaks to like how big The Last of Us is, right? Like if this game is so big that there's terrible ripoffs happening, like that becomes part of the big game's story. So I'm kind of focusing on like this one example that you gave, but the point is, the short version of this, I think, is like, it's impossible to do it all. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try. And it also like, there's some amount of like, if it's so bad as to be notably bad and people are talking about it, then yes, absolutely. It's part of like the larger story. Yeah,
that's true. I was thinking about, what you've said in the past about game preservation, and how it's just like, just from an educational standpoint, it's interesting to go back and find like some creators' early games. Like you never know, maybe the creator of Last Hope will go on to create the biggest PlayStation franchise that dwarfs Last of Us, But I was thinking about it recently because I went back and played Disney Magic Tetris Challenge on the Nintendo 64.
I love that game.
You know that game?
It's weird. It's a weird game.
Yeah, it's super weird. It's got, it's a lot of weird twists for Tetris where there's huge pieces coming through and wonky shapes and all that stuff. But the weird thing about it that I thought, or why I went back to it, is it's the first game that was directed by Hirabayashi, who went on to direct so many of the Zelda games and Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. And did you know that, Kelsey?
I did not.
There we go. So it is fun just to go back and look at it as like a weird fusion of Disney, and it was a Capcom game, so like Disney, Capcom, Tetris, and then like future talent. It's just like this Venn diagram, and it's fun then to go back to a game like that and just be like, okay, is this level of quality for Disney Magic Tetris Challenge? Is there anything I can glean from this for Hirabayashi's future career in game development? And so, yeah, it's a reason to preserve everything. And it's a good lesson too that you probably can't find Disney Magic Tetris Challenge anywhere reasonably. I don't think they're going to pop it up on the Nintendo Switch Online service or anything. It's just kind of lost unless you can go find the old cartridge, I guess. Also, they have like in the list of modes here, there's a lot of interesting things about Disney Magic Tetris Challenge. But one of them is like the mode for just standard Tetris is called Up-Down Tetris, which really confused me. I like dug through all these modes, like Up-Down Tetris? Who would think that that's standard Tetris? I don't remember
that. That's funny.
It's really weird though. Do you remember the story mode where you like choose a character, a Disney character, and then like you go through it and you fight, Pete at the end and he's really tough and all this stuff. But then the cool thing is then you choose a different character and you see like a different version of that story and you have to play them all to kind of piece together like what is the bigger picture here? It's like immortality,
Yeah, exactly. It's exactly like that. Yeah. It's a genuinely interesting Tetris game. And yeah, there are Tetris pieces in there that are made up of like 9 blocks. So they're just these huge, horrific monster blobs that you have to try to fit in your game. Yeah.
Stark writes in, they say, what studio closure do you think has had the biggest ripple effects on the games industry as a whole? That's a great question. My first instinct, and I'm curious to hear people in the comments sound off on this, my first instinct is Bullfrog. Peter Molyneux and a bunch of talent came from that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that is in Guildford, England. And as far as I understand it, like that was kind of the supernova, was once Bullfrog imploded, Lionhead obviously went on, and that was another big studio until that imploded as well, which kind of furthered this. But that spawned like a wild explosion of talent in Guildford, England, which then led to like Criterion Games, Hello Games, Media Molecule came out of there. There was talent from Bullfrog that then went over to Bungie. Like there's a weird supernova experience from Bullfrog going down back in the day. And now Guildford has like Mediatonics there, like the Fall Guys developer. Supermassive is there. Fireproof Games is there in addition to all those other studios. Like Guildford is just a weird hotbed. And I think a lot of it is from just Bullfrog imploding back in the 90s.
I do think it's interesting to think about this from a like geographical perspective too, because I wasn't thinking of that immediately. But I mean, like Budcat Studios, Budcat Creations, the Guitar Hero, and all of that. Those guys, like that's in Iowa City. That's like the only video game hub that whole state has, and so losing that was just black hole of video game talent now, where it's just like, okay, you can't go, you got to move now. Like you can only move. That is your only option if you want to stay in this industry.
Yeah. By the way, did I tell you that I bought that Home Depot game for the Wii that they developed after listening to your podcast about it? Like, I need that Home Depot game. I got to play that. So Sarah, do you want to come over at some point? We can play a Home Depot game on the Wii?
That actually sounds fun.
Oh, all right.
Are we like hammering nails with like Wiimotes?
I think so. I think it's like just a series of crappy mini games and stuff. Yeah.
I hope they have the music in there, but I don't know when they drop that music.
We can play our own Menards music over the top of it to really tie it all together, I think.
That's sacrilegious.
Yeah, you're right. No, but this is obviously sparked by Volition shutting down, which is a little bit like Bugcat in Iowa. Volition studios, developers behind Saints Row, Red Faction, rest in peace, Descent, Free Space, Agents of Mayhem, if you care about that type of thing. Punisher, the most recent Saints Row, obviously. Embracer Group last week shut them down right when the Starfield embargoes were lifting. Interesting timing. But then also that was like on the 31st, and it was also, employees there said like, if they would have done this on the 1st, they'd have to pay for our health insurance for another month. So there's maybe...
Oh, that's much nicer than what I thought it was, which is a news dump. No, it's not about the news dump. So it's hidden. It's about not paying people their insurance.
More than likely.
Which totally makes them sound less evil than the alternative. Thank God.
It's brutal. So this is a developer in Champaign, Illinois, which talk about kind of a game development desert in the Midwest. It's like, hey, Madison, Wisconsin is doing great. But in terms of Illinois, it's like, I think High Voltage is there. NetherRealm, I guess, is now the biggest developer, I'd imagine, in Illinois. But Volition...
Iron
Galaxy, yes.
Young Horses?
Ooh, I don't know.
I know they came up through like DePaul, but I don't necessarily know if that means that they're there. I don't think.
Oh, the Jackbox guys are in Chicago.
Yes, good point. Good point. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, good call out.
But still, it's a real blow. Hundreds of people losing their jobs in Illinois down there at Volition, and it's just like, I don't know. I think I was tweeting about it, and I called them a legendary studio, and afterwards I paused. I was like, do you give them? Are they legendary status? It's like they've been around for 30 years. Like they have such a wild, deep legacy. Like you got to give it up for a studio that's lasted 30 years and has created some real iconic stuff. And the reason that this happened, zooming out big picture as far as we can tell, is Embracer Group. Remember the company where we all made a bunch of jokes about like, haha, they're buying everything. These folks are crazy. Whoa, look at them go. And then they were counting on a big deal coming through from Saudi Arabia, it turns out. And then that did not happen, and they missed out on that $2 billion influx of cash from Saudi Arabia. And then as a result of that, they said, we need to tighten everything down. And a result of that is shutting down a legendary studio like Volition, which just hurts. Oh, it made me so mad.
Aren't industry monopolies fun?
Yes. Yeah. This is why it's especially brutal, right? But yeah, I have a soft spot in my heart for Volition because I was there in 2011 for the Saints Row 3 cover story for Game Informer. And they were so sweet. It was fun because it was like, oh, it's a game studio for a cover and we get to drive there. Let's like drive down to visit them in Champaign, Illinois. And so it was like Dan Reichert in the back with Jeff Cork, and they played Zelda 2 the entire drive down. I remember like that was their missions to beat Zelda 2. But then once we got there, like we did an interview with the founder, Mike Koulas, and he was so sweet and so open. And I remember like we asked him one question just to be like, hey, how'd you get your start here at Volition? And then he talked for over an hour about just the full history of Volition. Then we blew that out and we made like a whole hour-long documentary. It's on Game Informer's YouTube channel if you want to find it out, just about the full history of Volition of those early days. And it turns out after the fact, Mike reached out and he's like, yeah, the reason I was so open is like I was retiring the next month and like I hadn't told anybody yet. So he was like very eager, very nostalgic. And so they gave us so many old photos and assets, and they gave us just like this big folder of assets for this documentary. And I remember one of the things in there, and I think I still have on a hard drive, is they gave me the full script to Summoner, that PS2 RPG, just to have like the raw script to Summoner. Like, I can't imagine using this in the documentary, but I like that I have the script to Summoner. So they were a very sweet studio. Sad to see him go. I guess you could say the Leo Vader curse continues because he got back into Saints Row again this year.
Someone in chat had mentioned it. Though Leo's not shutting down studios.
He's not. He's not. That's right. That's right.
He's growing more powerful by the day.
Someone needs to stop him.
That's such a scary thought. I did not think of that. But yeah.
Also, Game Informer, if you're curious about Volition history and stuff, remember they announced they were making a game with Guillermo del Toro that was called Insane. And then at Game Informer, we did like a whole special edition of the podcast, kind of blowing out and detailing exactly what that was. It was like a first-person game that was Lovecraftian horror inspired by BioShock. And so if you want the inside story on what that Guillermo del Toro Volition game could have been back in the day, you can check that out on Game Informer's YouTube channel. What's Game Informer? Sarah says in the Backstage Pass chat. It's interesting. Let's see. Andres Martin says, hey, y'all, last time Sarah was on the podcast, she mentioned that she plays Magic the Gathering. As someone who absolutely loves the game, what format does she play? Any favorite types of decks? Any chance for some Magic the Gathering related content at MinnMax?
Let's just lower your expectations a smidge with how good I am at Magic the Gathering. I got started in college, and I was just buying like the little starter decks. Like you get a pack, and it has like 2 decks that are like pretty good matchups. And I played that, and that's how I first got into it. My favorite type of decks to play are the blue-white control decks, which don't win a lot, but at least when you lose quickly. Essentially what it means is that like I don't let you play anything ever. And then I don't really play anything. I just kind of block until I get like my big monster, and then I play it and you go down in a few turns. But yeah, I don't want you to have fun, and I'm not going to have fun playing.
Cool.
But I don't like when I put too many cards on the play field, because then I have to do a lot of math. So I try to eliminate the amount of like counting I'll have to do personally.
Right.
My friends recently got into the commander decks for Magic the Gathering, so I've been like trying to get back into it through the commander format, which I didn't realize was so popular, but that seems to be like the most popular format for Magic, and it's the most casual. So I've been trying to get into that. And so I made a deck of only cats, which I have here.
Listening.
This cat inspired it all. This is like a Lisa Frank
oh my
kitty.
God. Yeah, that is a Lisa Frank.
I know. It's like a re-art. I know. So basically I have a lot of cats, and then I equip weapons to my cats, and then my cats buff my other cats, and it's like a cat extravaganza.
Stop selling, you've already sold it. When you say you made a deck of cats, is because I don't know anything like at all about Magic the Gathering. Like literally, it's like if you know how you said your dad thought you made Tears of the Kingdom. That's me with Magic the Gathering. So this may be a really like basic question, but when you say, because you mentioned like, oh, I bought like a starter deck, and then you said I made a deck. Is that like you're pulling cards from a bunch of different kinds of decks to build your own?
Yeah. So basically, the decks that I have now, it's like all of these cards are from different like releases, but you can play them together. These are my Cactuar.
Is there like a rule about like,
that's good.
Because I'm sure there are rules on like what you can have in a deck?
Yeah, well, like if you want to say like sometimes they'll do, they just release like the Lord of the Rings set. Sometimes you can only play with cards in Lord of the Rings, which is more like drafting from specific decks. But if you're playing Commander, you can pull, there are only a few cards that are considered like illegal that you cannot play with, and there is a list of those. But other than that, it's like every card is on the table from any pack, and like so my only thing was like, does it have a cat on it? And apparently, I didn't realize this, there are a lot of cats in Magic the Gathering. So like my friend has like a ghost deck, and it's all ghosts. And yeah, mine are all cats. So there's like creature cats, there's like humanoid cat warriors in here.
This is like, so good. I love this because
wizard.
This is what I like to do in Pokemon too, where I'll make my teams. Like once I kind of finish, so when I run through the game the first time, it's like probably a regular team. But then if I'm still playing or something, I'll have like my team of like, maybe it is all ghosts, maybe it's like I have like a Latin American theme team where it's like I'm Mexican and Puerto Rican. So it's like the Pokemon I feel embody the culture are in that team. And then,
Yeah.
so
I like that. I like this cat a lot.
Hang on.
Well, Chad is saying that they would be into a new show plus. That's like
just magic.
Someone, I don't know, Sarah, I know you're very humble on your abilities, but like I'm sure
really
you're
humble.
You're more than a good enough tutorial teacher. Like I think you're downplaying your knowledge a little bit, but
I put it on the list. We can unpack it.
Yeah, for sure.
So cute.
Cool.
Sanctuary cats are my favorite. I was trying to collect a bunch of sanctuary cats.
Even if we just did Sarah shows all her Magic the Gathering cats,
people
like this has so many different episodes that it could be.
I could show all my bird Pokemon cards. I collect bird.
Weird collections.
We should definitely have like a collector's corner thing. I mean,
this is my most expensive card. This one's $50.
That you do a separate one that has a different name, so that we don't have the same name for two different shows.
Well, why wouldn't we just do an episode of Collector Corner that was us in our collection?
Because I feel like and now we're getting very meta, but I feel like Collector's Corner is more about like a level of there's a level of like additional intrigue and grandiosity to Collector's Corner that I feel like something like I don't think I would be good for Collector's Corner, for instance, because it's like, oh yeah, I have 10 Switch games that you can buy at GameStop this second. Like I don't have interesting collections, but I still have collections. They're just not that interesting.
Okay, all right, we'll figure out some. Jonah Abraham writes in saying, on last week's podcast, this is basically the corrections section, correction corner. Jonah Abraham says, on last week's podcast, Hansen mentioned his father totally mangling the ending of 1984, where they overthrow the oppressive society, then build one just like it. That's definitely not the plot of 1984, but it is the plot of Orwell's other extremely famous novel, Animal Farm, which is also highly worth reading. I never read that. I'm impressed my dad just managed to swap those. That's more impressive.
Oh my God, Animal Farm spoilers.
Yeah,
we all read it in high school, but I didn't. So
I didn't either. It always seemed tempting because it was really short. It's always the one where it's like, oh, if you got to choose from a list of books, like this is the classic.
I should read it. I mean, I do like Orwell stuff, so like I like the dystopian stuff. So
we love Orwell. Blake Aulet writes in and says, hey, Ben and crew, Blake from Canada here. I've been listening since the Game Informer days, but naturally the NHL-related misinformation is what prompted me to sign up after all this time. I'm sorry to say that Kyle Hilliard's overtime multi-puck rules are not correct. Just completely nonsense, apparently, that we spouted on the podcast last week. But I did want to share my personal favorite rule, because it's real, and the NHL is ridiculous. Teams dress a starting goalie and a backup goalie for each game. If both goalies are injured during the game, an emergency backup, as designated by the league, is brought in. In 2020, 42-year-old building manager David Ayers was brought into the NHL game against the Toronto Maple Leafs and won. And if that's nonsense, somebody write in, because we need more NHL corrections, please. Thank you. Drake Heinhorst says, hey, MinnMax, Ben, last week you introduced the last segment as something as, we prefer to call it Get a Load of This. This implies there's another name for the segment that you just don't prefer. What would that be? I forget. So we have, if you're a $5 supporter on Patreon, you can listen to the earliest meetings where we come, literally the earliest meetings we had about forming MinnMax and stuff. And I forget if it was in that or another meeting, but I am so glad we didn't go this route. But genuinely, the Get a Load of This segment, we were choosing between Get a Load of This for the name of it, or I don't know why these words gross me out. Or the other word was Juicy Nugget. It was going to be Juicy Nugget at the end of the show.
That is a little gross. But it wasn't as scary as I thought it was going to be.
No, it's just...
I think when Kyle Bossman was hosting, he said something like, give me your loads.
Right.
Yeah, that was horrifying.
Yeah, that was worse than Juicy Nugget. There's no doubt about it. Sean Mills says, hey, MinnMax, I wanted to add on to last week's discussion of what the best robot is. Ben's answer was Uncle Simon from Twilight Zone, but Uncle Simon is actually played by a more famous robot named Robbie the Robot. He was built for the famous 1950s sci-fi movie Forbidden Planet, but he was so expensive he got reused in several other MGM projects, including The Addams Family and Columbo. Ironically, he did appear on Lost in Space as well, where he battled the most famous robot from that show. I believe Robbie the Robot is in fact the best robot, or at least the hardest working one. Yeah, God bless him. I can't believe he was sentient too. We should talk about that more. Braulio Martinez writes in and says, not so much a question, but last week you were pointing out that Starfield doesn't have ground to space travel and instead it makes you go into a menu. You mentioned No Man's Sky, but I personally demand justice for the Ubisoft gem Starlink Battle for Atlas on Nintendo Switch, which in 2018 could do what Starfield can't. Fair point. We don't give enough credit to Starlink Battle for Atlas, and yeah, you could apparently go down to the planet, and you could do it as Star Fox in the Switch version of Starlink Battle for Atlas, and we all choose to ignore that fact. It should have been as big as Starfield is now. I agree. Do you sell Starlink toys in your store, Kelsey? Is that something that comes through ever?
Sure, like it has happened. It's not very often, but it has happened. Yeah.
There we go.
It's sold exclusively. That's like all they sell. It's flying off the walls.
RabidLime writes in, they say, is there a story of you as a child that your family still brings up no matter how long it's been? I accidentally locked myself in the bathroom in the middle of the night when I was 6, so I wrote I wrote a help note on some toilet paper using my mom's eyeliner pencil and slipped it under the door, then proceeded to make a bed out of towels.
This is the most like, that's like, I feel like the calmest response a 6-year-old could have in that situation.
Right. That sounds cozy though, actually.
I have a similar story, but my parents refused to tell it. But when I was younger, I broke my arm jumping on a table. And I was I was also 6. I had no parental supervision. I was like left alone in a room by myself. And I jumped off a table, broke my arm. And I had a little Harry Potter spiral notebook. And I had my sister, I dictated my last will and testament to her for my Harry Potter spiral journal. Because I was laying there like with a broken arm and like my dad was in a meeting. So we were just kind of waiting for him to come out of his meeting. That's the kind of kids we were.
Whoa.
Like we were like, don't disturb father while he's in a meeting. Hannah, will you please listen to my last will and testament and copy this down in my Harry Potter
You're
spiral
so oddly
notebook?
Victorian as a kid.
Yeah, and the bones like coming out of your arm.
very-
father.
Oh my God.
I like this story because I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I can very much see this being
Yeah.
your reaction to breaking your arm.
Do you remember what you
God.
had? Like what you were listing off? Like
I still have the notebook. And it's
Whoa.
just like,
with the
like
note?
Hannah can have my toys,
Okay.
but she can't have this toy. Tell my parents I love them.
Hey,
Like,
hang on. Ready to New Show Plus, everybody's last will and testament?
You were ready to die.
I was ready to die at the age of 6.
Jesus.
It's just been a long road since then.
There's,
yeah.
speaking of long roads, it's going to be a long road of just constantly being scared of everything having a kid, but it is weird to be like, at some point, he will do something stupid, like jump off a table and break his arm. And just like, we're already in countdown mode to something stupid happening, and it's going to be horrifying, and he's going to be in a lot of pain. And like, no matter what, no child gets through their childhood without something stupid
but
that
kids,
hurts a lot.
Kids bounce back so fast.
Yeah.
It's unfair how quickly their little bones heal.
Yeah. Okay. I haven't seen you move your arm the entire podcast now that you mention it.
I do have a pretty wicked scar
Really?
where it was, yeah. Like,
Ooh.
you can't really see it, but it's like,
We'll save it
A
for New
little,
Scar
like,
Plus when we show all
right
our
there.
scars.
because I had to
think I
get
have it written
surgery
down.
on it.
Oh, God.
God.
I was
sucks.
a very accident-prone child. I
I'm
ended
so
up in
scared
the
of breaking a
hospital
bone.
lot.
I've never broken anything.
Oh, you should break one just to get it over
brag,
with.
brag, Janet.
No, look at me. I'm stuck because I'm uncoordinated because I'm
either.
full of fear. And don't be impressed.
Has anybody else got a story that their parents constantly screaming at them about?
Yeah, my mom loves telling stories about me, but I think my favorite one and another very like, oh yeah, I can see you being that kind of thing. Like it's a very me story. My mom was pregnant with my little brother, so I was like 4 years old maybe. And a random lady, just, like we're at the supermarket or whatever, she crouched down and was like, "Are you so excited about the baby in your mommy's tummy?" And I apparently put my hands on my hips and went, "It's not in her tummy, he's in her uterus."
Yeah! Good parenting.
Love that lady.
Do not let her peddle misinformation to you.
Yeah, and I've been insufferable ever since.
That's it.
Kelsey's just owning people in the middle of the grocery store. Like just
Now sit down before you fall down. Yeah, my parents love telling my story, but also the story of my sisters do too, because I have 2 older sisters, and so you get bullied a fair bit, And so what they did is they pretended that there was a 3rd sister that died, and they'd be like, "Come on, Ben, you have to come look at your other sister that
this is
died."
way too common of a story.
Oh yeah, like come check out the sister. And then my oldest sister would run and hide under her bed. And they'd be like, "Her name's Carrie, go talk to Carrie." And my sister would be under the bed like, "Ben, help me, I'm your lost sister." It's, believe it or not, scared the hell out of me
No,
when I was a
that's
stupid
horrifying.
little kid. So don't do that, everybody. What do y'all like for question of the week?
I like the gorilla. I
We
like
all
the
like the gorilla.
Oh God, I'm trying to remember the other ones. There was one where
good questions this week, everybody. I like the video game parties that looked fun. The dancing question, big gorilla question. Kelsey, don't be too partial just because it involves a gorilla. The one about family stories.
I'm between dancing and gorillas for what it's worth. So
I think I like the dancing
New sentences.
ones. We do a lot of. I try to spread them out, and we do a lot of like animal food ones. I think the dancing one is good.
Sarah?
Nobody asked me if I danced for the dancing question.
Can you?
So
Are you?
like
You're right. Are you willing to answer if I ask you now?
Yes.
Do you dance? Do you like to dance? Will you have this dance? I'm missing one of the dances, but you figure it out.
Yes, I do dance, and I did grow up dancing. Thank you.
Really? What kind of dance?
Yeah. I was that kid who was always in dance classes, so I was in ballet, jazz, tap, hip-hop. I danced competitively.
Hip-hop.
Oh my God. Can you still dance now?
I mean, I don't think the skills have probably degraded a bit, but I still like to think that I could dance, like learn a routine or something.
I will say, Sarah, like we had a whole dance incentive during Extra Life where every time somebody donated a certain amount for charity, we'd break into a dance. Most of us were flailing around like morons. Somehow it was like, genuinely, Sarah, if I give this compliment, I thought like, Sarah's like dancing well, standing behind a desk, just like shimmying a little bit.
It was hard because it's like, the cord was wrapping around my body.
Right, you shouldn't be able to impress somebody with that dance skills, but you pulled it off, yeah. Did I really move on from that question so fast that you didn't get a chance to jump in?
Yeah, nobody asked me, and I just assumed it's because you knew
I don't want to ask. Jump in if you're a pro
you were like,
dancer.
Obviously, Sarah.
I think it's because we
dance.
went long in the tooth on some of the other details, and then we just kind of assume, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
I feel like,
We're
where it's like, we talk too
talkers
long.
on this show.
Derek, congratulations. We're shipping out a prize for you. That Genesis Noir vinyl soundtrack from Miami. But now it's time for something we call Juicy Nugget. Gas from the crowd. All right.
Well, I was waiting because I thought the jingle's still playing, right? Like,
that's true. Get a load of this, everybody. I'll kick it off. He's not on this episode, so we can talk more about him. Leo Vader put out a new video on his YouTube channel, and it's called Working Weird Fake Jobs from Rom-Coms. So it's a video about just like how everybody has this kind of some fluffy, cute job in every rom-com ever, right? But just in case you've never looked at one of Leo's videos, you should just jump in and check this out because he elevates things to a level. I think as a video producer, I always have this weird thing where I watch other people's videos and I go like, I could do that, can't do that. And a while ago, I feel like Leo's videos got to a point of like, I couldn't dream of doing what he's doing at this point. It has become full, Pee-wee over there. There is a level of lore and fun and silly and puppets that is, I could not begin to fathom how to put it together. So there's a link below.
Puppets now?
Very funny puppets that his friends are commandeering. So check it out on Leo's YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/Leo Vader. It's a link below as well. Who's most excited to go? Who's got the best?
I'll go, but I don't have the best. I actually probably have the worst, but I'm still excited.
Let's hear it.
So there you go. Mine is get a load of this. This is kind of a late acknowledgement from my part, but it lives with me. So I've started getting back into MLS. Those who like follow the show or my content a lot know that I like soccer. Like I play like the EA games. Like I'll watch soccer games. Like I like the Mexican national team. Like, I've talked about soccer a decent amount. And Messi is now in MLS, as people who know MLS know, like the player, like Lionel Messi. And it just continues to be like, it's Messi's world and we're just living in it. I will say the thing that makes this kind of fresh is the fact that he had his first MLS game, like officially like regular match, not Champions League, like only a few weeks ago. But he came to LA. And I just want to acknowledge the spectacle of what Messi has been. So I have a couple articles like to refer back to for it, but the star-studdedness of, so I have to emphasize too, this is a regular season match.
Okay.
Like a normal game. It's not a playoff game. It's just a regular, but Messi's like on the, on the Miami team. They came to LA. Prince Harry was there. DiCaprio was there. Selena Gomez was there. Oh, and it's like every celebrity was there. It's like in LA, we just had Beyonce's Renaissance concert came through and that was very star-studded too. But this one was like, anyone was at this regular game because there's a chance Messi on the opposing team, because we live in Los Angeles, will grace the field. And it just blows my mind to see it. Like it makes sense because it's like, if like Messi is, obviously it's still hyperbole, but I was trying to explain to Isaiah what a big deal Messi is coming to MLS. And I'm like, this is like if if Jesus Christ started playing for the Lakers, like how packed the stadium would be. Like it is wild. The lowest resale ticket for this game, I believe, like lowest, like worst seat you can imagine, I believe was $700 or $800.
What are you doing?
On resale? Like the lowest for a regular game. Like
That's
it's just
bananas.
it has been a scene to, this is a time to be alive.
Okay.
The spectacle of it is just like unfathomable. And then, again, people that follow Messi love Messi forever. But, he's an amazing player. He's then, the GOAT, right? But like, and then just seeing him play too, and then seeing other, it's just a wild time.
Okay.
But anyway,
there we go. Love it. Sarah, you got one?
Yeah, there's some drama coming out of the Minnesota State Fair.
No.
Yes.
Seed, specifically the seed art community. Are you familiar with the seed art?
Yeah.
So essentially, at the Minnesota State Fair, you can like submit a bunch of crafts for judgment, get ribbons, and a really big one is seed art, where you take specifically agricultural seeds and you make works of art out of them. This year, apparently, it was like a mix of like memes. There was apparently a lot of like orcas sinking ships, but also like genuinely beautiful art. But what happened is apparently one of the rules of seed art is you can only use seeds that are grown in Minnesota.
Oh,
so the plant has to be grown in the state of Minnesota for it to be a valid seed. And somebody snitched that the yellow mustard seed was no longer being grown in Minnesota, but it is very popular for seed art. Apparently, it's like really easy to color. It's like a larger size, so you don't need a lot of them. Incredibly popular seed. But somebody snitched that they're no longer planting it in Minnesota, so it can no longer be used. It's no longer valid for State Fair seed art.
What are you doing? Who's that little rat?
I don't know. But people are like, they're trying to convince farmers to grow it again, so it can be like, they can use it in their art. Like, it is just like, they have been shaken to their core.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Did this also come out like while people already had made the art? Is it like a bunch of stuff got disqualified?
I think it came out like right after the State Fair. Someone was like, hey, you know that like, we don't really use yellow mustard seed anymore. And everybody was like, shut up. Snitch. So somebody snitched, and literally one of the art says just like, who snitched about the yellow mustard. Yeah, so it's we'll see what happens next year.
There we go. Kelsey.
There's nothing I like more than drama of communities I've never heard of. That's like my favorite.
And it's such like low risk drama too. Like nobody got hurt. Like nothing really bad happened. But I love it.
Ribbons were lost because of it. Yeah.
Get a load of this. My favorite booth at PAX this year was the Cheez-Its booth. There was a giant booth that was just set up like a bodega with nothing but Cheez-Its in it. And you couldn't buy any of the Cheez-Its, but it was completely filled with Cheez-Its. And then when you got to the end, they had a bunch of really comfy beanbag chairs, and you would get a free bag of Cheez-Its, and they had phone chargers and everything there. It was where I spent all 15 minutes of my break.
This is why you're a woman after my own heart, because I was walking the floor like the last day with some friends, and one of them says, oh, do you want to hit up do you want to go get some Cheez-Its? And I said yes, and they said, oh, I was just joking. And I was like, how dare you joke about Cheez-Its? Why would I say no to that? I don't know, are we above Cheez-Its? Like, what's going on? Like, wait, I'm sorry, I didn't know this was a classy walking over the show floor of the convention. Like, I was a little offended by their the way they disregarded the Cheez-Its booth. I'm like, that's a very legit booth that I would totally go into, but I didn't end up having time.
Yeah, it genuinely, like, I normally feel like just that kind of marketing stuff doesn't work on me very well. I think I genuinely walked away from PAX liking Cheez-Its more.
Yep. Hey, mission accomplished. That's perfect. I can't believe they did it. Let's see. Get a lot of this from the community in the Discord. If you're a supporter in any tier, you get access to the MinnMax Discord, which is filled with hot channels, including the Get a Load of This channel, which is truly the best social media feed you could ever hope to have. It's everything you need. Rich shared a link to the latest episode of the Bombcast. Janet, I don't know if you saw this, but Jan Ochoa is on it. And so Rich shares a link that's timestamped, and he points out that Janet Garcia and Jan Ochoa from Giant Bomb both picked the chef class in Starfield and called their character Janthony Bourdain.
Okay, I met another person. Wait.
Who is this
from the Bombcast? I think I talked to...
Jan Ochoa.
Who is this?
Jan.
Okay.
Jan Ochoa.
Yeah, like I've been talking about a lot of chef people. Like I've been talking to other chef people that are calling themselves Janthony Bourdain. Like this is like, yeah, like... Wait, hang on. This is the thing.
You're saying there's another one in addition to Jan, or did you talk to Jan at PAX about it?
Story's
full of holes.
Here's the thing.
You forgot. Jan shaved his head recently.
I think it was. That's who I talked to at PAX. I'm pretty sure.
I feel like, Bethesda's always sharing those stats about like 14 million people have stepped foot on this moon in Starfield. Like, we want the stats. How many other Janthony Bourdains are there in Starfield?
That is actually, I'm more confident than ever. That is 100% who I spoke to about it. And and they had the same, didn't listen to that episode of the Bombcast.
Sure.
But they had the same like gripe that I had of like, I wanted to be the chef. I was like, yes, like, I'm like, people always, people give a lot of flack for a lot of things, but they're like, did you really role play in the RPG? It's like, yeah, I wanted to be Janthony Bourdain. I had this whole plan set up. And I did appreciate that. I think, Jenna with the, she mentioned the last episode, but with the pottery stuff.
Yeah.
There's a whole sector of J-named people that are dying to role play these very specific, non-deadly characters. If
you want another super deep cut from Game Informer, I apologize, but at E3 2011, I lined up a one-on-one discussion video between Notch and Todd Howard, back when Notch was cool and Minecraft wasn't quite out yet or whatever. And I remember like Notch was just a hugest fan of Oblivion because before Skyrim came out. And he was talking about like the dorky ways he was role-playing Oblivion and he was apologizing. And I always appreciated like Todd Howard stopped him and he goes, no. That's the point. That's the point of the games, is to role-play in a geeky way. That's what we make these things for. So you all did nothing wrong, Janet.
Yeah. But God forbid you say anything else beyond that. But yeah, I did meet them and they did talk. He was talking to me about that. He's like, I was Janthony Bourdain. And that's why I got freaked out at first. I'm like, is there a third? Let me know in the comments if you were Janthony Bourdain, because the fact that there's two of us does blow my mind. Yes.
Hey, that's it for this episode of the MinnMax Show podcast, everybody. Thanks so much for watching or listening to it, and thank you especially to the folks who support it directly over there on Patreon. If you support us at that bonus podcast tier feed, you get the bonus podcast right in your favorite podcast app. You can more than double the amount of podcasts you listen to from MinnMax each and every week. It's right there. It's a very simple little thing. I think everyone assumes you got to listen to your browser or through your browser in some funky way, but also now available on Spotify. You can just get these bonus podcasts right in your bonus podcast feed, including the Spelling Bee that Sarah and Leo and Dan Reichert and I did at 2DCon. That whole recording is up in that bonus podcast feed. Did you enjoy that, Sarah? She's slowly nodding.
Yes.
Okay, lessons for next time?
Maybe not a spelling bee.
You don't like spelling bees?
I think what you should have done is just like done like how to make a video game podcast, and that room would have tripled in size.
You think so?
Yeah, people love. Everyone wants to make a video game podcast. Have you seen?
Here's the sad reality about panels is that like fun and interesting ones almost never get as much attention as like we stuck a YouTuber in a room and you can just ask them the same 10 questions they answered at the last panel. And
I feel very added as someone who is like, Metal Jesus is going to be at this convention. No shade to Metal Jesus. Obviously, like he's doing good stuff with his panels, but yes, you're not wrong.
I've done a couple of those panels where you're just like talking in front of a group of people. It's hell. Like I hate that guilt of like, this is not interesting enough for people to sit and watch and listen to.
You run a podcast.
But people are going about their lives doing this. If it was like you can only absorb the MinnMax Show by sitting in a sterile, fluorescent, light-filled room and staring straight ahead, don't absorb the podcast. You know what I mean? So I always want to have some level of like engagement. Like if we ever did a PAX, which I'd really love to next year, like I'd love to do a Trivia Tower live, or I like the Spelling Bees. I think they're super fun. But you're probably right, Sarah. You're smart. You're right. Anyways, that bonus podcast feed, it's red hot, folks. Also, we'll have Party Chat in there. It's our bonus podcast each and every week. And the next episode will be Janet and Kelsey unpacking the full PAX trip, but also taking questions and calls from anybody at that MinnMax Council tier. If you want to literally call in and podcast with us, that's recorded every single Monday. Check it out. The max spoilers for Final Fantasy 16. If you want more discussion about Final Fantasy 16, you can check that out in the bonus podcast feed. What else we got? Plugs for Trivia Tower. Trivia Tower is coming back, everybody, in September. We've been away for a couple months. So the next episode of Trivia Tower is going to be Tuesday, September 19th. Tuesday, September 19th is the next episode of Trivia Tower. We'll announce the guest on next week's episode, but there's a guest, but there's also a guest theme, a big reveal of the theme for this Trivia Tower. This isn't a versus episode because it's been a while. And we normally do it in June, so this episode of Trivia Tower is Trivia Tower, the Grand Round.
Grand round.
Thank you. Uncanny. Yeah, so that's the $1,000 prize pool. So if you jump in and support us at any tier on Patreon, you can compete in Trivia Tower. And if you know your stuff well, you will win $1,000 with Trivia Tower there if you compete in game trivia. So check that out. We'd appreciate it. Also,
are we still doing the split for the 1,000?
It is a split.
To you, 500 okay.
That's the fine print. Yeah, 500 goes to a charity of your choice. 500 goes to you because we're trying to train people to be good, and it's easier, so you don't have to send them like tax forms and stuff.
It's a win-win-win.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Except for the IRS, lose, lose, lose. We say to them.
Who wants the IRS to win? Like, you guys aren't helping out.
Not helping out at all with MinnMax
different
content. Also, in terms of plugs, little vague yet, but we have had a lot of community meetups in Minneapolis. Shout out to everybody who has come out to join us for, like MinnMax's 3rd anniversary and a ton of other meetups and stuff like that. We just had one back in June or start of June. But here's the thing. I realized I was going to be in Seattle the weekend of MinnMax's 4th anniversary. And Kelsey lives in Seattle. So here's the thing. The next MinnMax community meetup will be happening in Seattle, not Minneapolis. So Sunday, October 22nd, you can come out to a place that we'll be sharing in the very near future and meet Kelsey and I, and hopefully some other fine folks from the MinnMax community, maybe developers from the Seattle scene can come out. The great debate is, will we have a bigger turnout or a lesser turnout? Because we're not in our home turf, but there's a lot of dorks in Seattle. I don't know, Kelsey.
I had so many MinnMax comments this weekend at PAX, and yes, some of them could be from out of town and stuff, but I'm just saying, I think it could be big, and I'm just very excited to participate. I feel like I'm part of this thing.
Yeah,
well, yeah, of course you are. What are you talking about?
Kelsey.
You are.
I'm glad you feel it though, because that matters more than the fact part of it in a lot of ways.
I have not.
No BS. Like, yeah, you totally are a part of here. Like, people love your contributions here. I love your contributions here. All of us do.
I wasn't asking for all this, but thank you.
Yeah, well, too bad. Okay, sit down and take the compliments.
That's right.
Because we're not done with the show yet. But on that note too, I did meet someone as well from MinnMax from the area, and I mentioned I teased the thing you're talking about. So I'm like, yeah, cool, it's happening. So, and I was like, yeah, if you can make it out, we'll be announcing it whenever or whatever.
Yep.
So
October 22nd. Also, a quick programming update. This is normally the stuff we have in party chat and kind of go into it. But Cream of the Steam, the show everybody knows, jumping through a bunch of Steam games. It will return, but it might need a little bit of a breather to kind of reformat things a little bit. There's a technical reason that we need to take a little bit of a break because I need to actually build out a new PC to get in the MinnMax studio as a hint of where we can go in the future. So don't expect that in the near future, but it'll be here in the soon future. Is that a good way to put it, Sarah?
Yes.
Okay, there
Prepare
we
your
go.
PC. Prepare your PC.
Oh, Micro Center, help me, please. All right, that is it for this episode. Sorry it went long, everybody. Does anybody else have something they're dying to plug here?
No, but imagine going to Micro Center and being like, I need this PC to play the most unoptimized, jankiest, borderline illegal games possible.
Yeah, are you familiar with Archer Games' work? What's that? No? Okay, anyways, that is it for this episode. Again, can't thank y'all enough. We greatly appreciate it, and we'll be back next week for a whole new episode. Be good, have fun, let's go!